liberty, and justice for all.
Well, welcome everybody. We are so glad to be back. As you know, we haven't met since November, so this is really a first, and we are thrilled to be joined together with the folks from Edgewood. And it's nice to see everybody out here, so we're going to start real quick by introducing ourselves so you know who we are. My name is Paula Mullis, I'm the chair. And just as a little bragging right, I heard the other day that I was the longest sitting chair since my 13th year. So I'm back. I'm back.
Stability is a good thing.
Thank God, yeah, job security, right? Jansen, we'll start with you. Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Jansen Robinson. I'm an Edgewood resident. I've been a part of one of these things, either Community Council or Community Advisory Board since 2005.
And that is my co-chair. So if for any reason I cannot make the meetings, Jansen will be here to make sure that everything is done the way it should.
Jim Lyons, hi, I'm from the Glory Moon section of Harford County. And been on the council, I think we were on 15 years, more. Really represent Joppa Magnolia Volunteer Fire Company and emergency services on here as well as the community.
Well, I'm Gloria Moon and I'm on his side of the room. I'm in rural Joppa. I was actually on the planning advisory board when they did the Joppatowne community. Sue Hustleton. Also on Friends of Harford Board, Joppa Development and Heritage Corporation, whole bunches of things, but Joppa's my home.
And Gloria is our planning and zoning board. Anything you want to know, I'm telling you now, anybody what you want to know, yes, Gloria.
And I send out the notices too.
Right, and anytime we get something that comes to the county, I send it to Gloria and she'll send it out to everybody. So be sure that you're on the sign-up sheet. Be sure your email is on there so that if Gloria doesn't already have it, you'll be added to this. You never left that in the loop.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, she is.
And people's council.
She's on it. She's on
Advisory
everything.
board. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like government.
Hi everyone, my name is Terry Epps. I'm new to all of this. Edgewood resident, born and bred, been a resident all my life. Co-founder and former vice president of Cares Community Inc. And I'm just so welcome and so blessed and grateful to have this opportunity to continue the process in which needs to be stated.
Well, we welcome you.
Bob Herzog, longtime Harford County resident, Joppatowne, 10 years, North Harford, 26 years, and now back in Edgewood, for Edgewood. Been back about 3 years now, and first day here. Go easy.
We really don't let anybody out to hurt you. And you probably remember him from the mobile stations in Joppatowne, so when I introduced
We used to
myself.
own the 2 mobile stations.
Yeah, when I said, okay.
Your gas was much cheaper.
Yeah, it was a lot of, times were very different.
Hi everyone, I'm Melissa Deriska. I'm new to Harford County. I've been out here for 5 years. But I hit the ground running when I got out here. Did a lot of community activity, all kinds of, you name it. Right now I sit on the Opulent Lady Business Association where I'm the Community Partnership Manager. I'm also involved in the NAACP. I'm also involved in the African American Alliance group. But we look for this to be an effective role for me so that I can help out in any way best suited.
Well, welcome aboard also.
Marianne Forgan, I am a member of Friends of Harford, a member of the Joppatowne and Heritage Corporation, a long time resident of Joppatowne community, employed by Harford County Public Schools. I work at Joppatowne High School, and I also take care of the sign in Joppatowne, trying to keep the community informed about what's going on.
So right, when you pass it by Redlands and you see the activities, it's Marianne, so we really appreciate the fact that she posts for us. And Adam, you're in the back, but
Yeah. Hi, I'm Adam Schellenbarger. I'm the preacher of Joppatowne Christian Church, and I've been asked to do a really bad job of live streaming this. So I'm working on that right now, and then I'll talk later.
but we will get the live streaming,
It's live streaming now.
right, and it will work, we will work it out, so. Okay, so the only thing we're gonna skip on the agenda is approval of minutes, and the reason is because this is a brand new board and a brand new community advisory board, we're starting out with meeting one. So our minutes from our old Just Joppa community board wouldn't be relevant, so we're actually considering this as meeting number one, so we'll have minutes to approve at the next meeting. Okay, so with that, we have our policing report. Lieutenant Petco, would you like to?
How you doing, folks? My name's Nick Pedrosino, I'm lieutenant here in the sheriff's office. This precinct serves your community, Joppa and Edgewood. I run the 4 to 12 shift. I'm really excited that this group came back together and that they actually put it together. I don't know how you guys feel yet, but I like it because I can hear directly from both. It's very difficult to kind of just try and serve each individual, person as opposed to the group. It works a lot better. So I have crime stats, so I don't remember the Edgewood. It seemed like a smaller group from the Edgewood, so, right, like I don't remember doing Edgewood, crime stats for you guys. But anyway, that's a regular thing that's done at this meeting. So the top 3 calls for service for, March 1st to March 31st, compared 22 to 23, is, suspicious incidents was 155 in 2022, 146 this year. Check on subject is 90. Check on subject is 136. Disorderly call 86, and then disorderly 73. Just to explain those numbers, top calls for service, a lot of those are officer initiated. It means that the deputies are in your community and calling out with these situations opposed to citizens calling us. It's a mixture of those two. That's why it's the top numbers. Total calls for service for the month of March in 2022 is 2,669. In 2023 is 2,528, which is 5% reduction. And I think I said that right, 2,669. It seems like 5% would drop. That it's like, hey, people aren't calling the police. That's not necessarily true because patrol checks aren't logged as calls for service, if that makes sense. Crashes in 2022 were 10 in the month of March, 17 in 2023. And we talked about this in the last meeting, that includes MSP's crashes.
MSP is Maryland State Police.
Yes. Yep.
For anybody.
Oh, yeah,
Give
yeah,
up
it's the zip code. It's the 2 zip codes. So for homicides, 0 and 0, which is good. Reported rapes was 2 last year, 1 this year for March. 3 robberies reported, 0 this past March. 9 assaults, 12 reported in 2023. Staging on the burglaries was 7 to 7. Theft reports are down 32 down to 27. But still, please check your cars and make sure they're locked. And auto thefts are 4, 1 up to 5.
So you said that was for
Yes, that's, I'm sorry.
You said that was for Joppatowne only?
And Edgewood.
Oh, for both.
Yep,
Okay.
both numbers.
Okay.
You know what, I'll check on that, because it did, I think that those numbers seem kind of low to me. But I will, it says Edgewood, Joppa, Joppatowne. I feel like those numbers are probably just from Joppa.
So next month, we'll make sure it's all
Right.
inclusive.
I'll make sure it's done, and I'll pass it off to the board and they can email it out to you guys. Before I leave, I always ask, does anybody have any questions of me? Yes, sir.
Not so much a question, maybe a request. One, thank you guys, you do a really great job keeping us safe, and I think to know to show that, I see your presence around, so I appreciate that. And I'll talk this when I get a chance to the citizens, but you'll be leaving, so I wanted to share it with you. And I have written to several council members and other folks throughout the state. I think one of the qualities of life measures around that makes people happy is living in a clean environment and not living in a trash can. And I would love to see you guys write those $500 tickets for littering when you see people throwing cigarette butts and trash out of their car. Because I think if you did that just twice a month, 5 times a month, social media would take care of fixing the rest of the problem, or it would certainly make a huge help. But I am tired of living and watching and picking up the trash and the garbage and just seeing it throughout our community. Joppatowne, Edgewood, Route 40, called the state, had them clean up Route 40. 2 days later, it looked like they hadn't even hardly been there. So, business, there's a bunch of other things, I'll take that later, but I would just
No, it's a good
love to
request,
see some
though.
enforcement to start to happen there.
And that's something I can handle at my level, so I'll make sure we let them
Thanks.
know.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, speaking to that, here on 40 for over a month now, we've had a van there if you're going up 40, right past the overpass, right past McDonald's, and there's a van there that, they're like living out of it. I'm being told that they might be working on it, but it's been there for over a month. McDonald's, right where the Whopper, what is,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Right past
on the side of
the,
McDonald's, it's right after you go under the overpass.
Yes, there's 2 people living there now.
Right, so now another car's pulled up there, and today I went by big white bags of garbage, trash,
okay.
picnic chairs.
I wanted to know, is there anything you all can do to increase the, leasing and ticketing of the illegal parking situation? Because I live off of Edgewood Drive, and when you go up and down like Fisherman's Lane or, Top View and stuff, yeah, cars, signs are clearly there, don't park. And then the biggest problem that happened recently, the handicapped parking spaces, like at the Wawa, different places, just like, yeah, there'll be people, they don't have tags, they're parked crazy and everything, and yeah, it was seniors, yeah. But definitely, because, you know, once you take my cousin, you couldn't get through, 2 cars couldn't pass on the street there on, Fisherman's Lane because everybody parked on the side.
Yeah, I noticed that there's an increase in, it's parked right down to Edgewater Village Drive, right? The Edgewater Drive, sorry. Right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that.
They're all around there.
I had a question. I live in, right on 40, and I was wondering, because I've been complaining about vehicles being parked there illegally, with bad tags, people have accidents, just leave their cars in there, they don't live in the development. Cars I've never seen, they have, cause I saw an accident last Thursday on 40, and he took his car and parked it right in our development. I don't know these people,
Is there blue sign streets there? Or?
yes, they are.
It's county road.
County road.
It is a county road.
They
That's,
county road.
okay, I just wanna make sure it's county.
Yeah.
So the same thing kind of parking for tenants there.
Yeah, with expired tags, cars that are beat up in car crashes, they're just stashing them.
Here we go.
Any other questions?
Thank you
I
so
will see
much.
you next month.
Okay, and like you say, at the next meeting, then we'll have all the combined numbers for us, correct?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go look at that now.
Okay.
See what I can come up with.
Okay.
All right.
We appreciate it, thank you.
All right, take care, guys.
Thank you. Alright, real quick, before Shane, if you give us 1 second before I call you up.
Thank you.
Gloria has this note, I'm gonna, go ahead and explain to Gloria what Shane is telling us, makes sense.
Yeah, this was, Grimm, I think is the one who came up with these maps. This is us, right? All the way up here, Country Life Farm, we're not all Joppatowne, and all the way down here to Joppatowne. This is county council, or not county council. Community Advisory Board, Joppatowne. This is Edgewood up here, and I don't have the rest of it.
Right.
Yeah, no, I thought it was 95? I thought Judy Rose was in the district.
Route 7 on your district?
If you used to go down to Colmar Drive, Route 40, anything north, there's a nice, comprehensive, zoning went to 95. Redistricting.
I think it is 95.
So
Now,
that's
to say
us,
that
it's
the
large.
community,
Unless all the maps hanging in the county council are wrong.
Okay, well, no, I don't think so, I don't think so. Okay, so this is, Joppatowne Community Advisory Board, right here, all the way up to, like I said, Country Lake Farm. You don't think of that normally. You think of Joppatowne, it's bigger than Joppatowne.
So you have to get a new map, is basically what they're telling you.
No, I'm not gonna get a new map. This is the Community Advisory Board. I said county council when I was wrong. I was wrong. I can write it down, yeah, I apologize.
All right, so I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, and I really want to thank him because the county actually said he volunteered to come to this meeting tonight. And so I really appreciate that. And this is Shane Grimm, who's now the head of department.
That's what they say.
If that's what they tell you to take it. Of the Department of Planning and Zoning, and I know we have a lot of live questions that we've been waiting to ask, so you're on.
All right, well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me tonight. My name again is Shane Grimm, and I'm the Director of Planning and Zoning for Harford County. And I could speak for hours. I'll try to make it less than 30 minutes, and I feel like I'll probably need to come back again. I wanted to do what I call Planning and Zoning 101, but that could go on for days. And I enjoy talking about those types of things. So real quick, a little bit about me. I have worked for the Department of Planning and Zoning. This is my second term, secretarial duty, I guess you should say. I started out as an intern in the department in the late 90s when I went to Towson University. And then from there, I knew I wanted to come back to the department. So in 2001, I was hired, and I stayed there until 2017. And then I left to take a brief detour to the city of Harford County, where I was both Deputy Director and Director of Planning and Zoning at the city of Harford County. And then an opportunity came up for me to come back and serve the Castley administration and citizens of Harford County. And Mr. Castley appointed me as Director of Planning and Zoning, so I was honored to have that. I am almost a lifelong resident of Harford County. I grew up in Jarrettsville. I still reside in Jarrettsville with my wife and daughter. And when I'm not here speaking about boring planning and zoning things, I'm on a stage somewhere trying to be a rock star. And so I'm used to having tomatoes thrown at me, so if you have, just make sure they're soft because they're hard to hurt. Well, as I always say, if I need to speak up, let me know, but I have a face for radio and a voice for silent films, so I'll do the best I can. So with that being out of the way, what I am, what I do for a living, I'll talk to you a little bit about what the department does, and I'll give you a little background on the department, and then we'll talk about some basics of what the Department of Planning and Zoning does. And then we can get into some questions, and like I said, I'm happy to come back if we want to dive deeper into specific topics. So I just want to give you a broad overview right now. So the Department of Planning and Zoning, right now, we're about 33, 34 people, and we're split up into 3 sections. It used to be 2 sections, but I created another section. And we are current planning, and current planning is really the day-to-day operations of the department. And that contains the development review staff and the administrative staff that take in all the plans and permits and things like that. So the current planning side of the house has to do with permitting, new development plans coming in, whether they be commercial development or residential development, and they review those plans and then they circulate those through the deputy director and myself. The other side of the house is what we call comprehensive planning, or it's now called long-range planning. Long-range planning is just that. It looks at things in the future. They are responsible for environmental planning, transportation planning, also master planning. Harford Next is our current master plan, and those types of documents come out of that section of the department. The last section is a section I created just to really acknowledge that they're a very special group and do a very specialized thing that is for all of us and for the citizens too. And that is our Geographic Information Systems group, or GIS, and that is mapping. Simply put, it's mapping. And it's a great tool, and you can do anything with it. Just about anything in today's world, you can somehow map it or use data and use GIS to come up with different correlations or issues that you can look at and try to resolve those problems by looking at different data and data sets. So they're a really unique group, and they provide a really good service to the county agencies, county council. I probably did those maps on the wall over at the county council, I'm sure. And so those are the three sections of our department right now. So what are the big things that planning and zoning does? Well, there's really two. And I really should just turn it over to Gloria. She knows all this stuff. But the two big things that the Department of Planning and Zoning does outside of the day-to-day work that we do with permits or plan reviews or things like that are master plans, like I said, or comprehensive planning. Comprehensive plans, as some people call them. And also comprehensive rezoning. So typically, a comprehensive rezoning will follow after an update to a master plan or a rewrite of a master plan. The last time we did that was in 2014. We started the update to the master plan, and we finished roughly around 2016 with a document called Harford Next. Harford Next is different than what we did all the years in the past. And the reason we did that was we had a bunch of disparate documents that really didn't speak to each other, that was done on different time frames. You had a transportation element plan that was done in 1 year, then you had a land use plan done in another year, natural resources plan done in another year. So we thought that was crazy because you're constantly going from plan to plan. So we folded all of those into one document, which became Harford Next. So there's a transportation chapter, there's a natural resources chapter, things like that. So that document is only about 6 years old now, and the state of Maryland, through the land use article, requires that a master plan be done by each jurisdiction every 10 years. So we're just a little over the halfway lifespan of that master plan. And so that really doesn't jive with our comprehensive planning or comprehensive rezoning process, which is required to take place every 8 years per the county code. And so they're kind of out of sequence, and they always kind of have been. And the state changed it on us as well. The state used to have a different time frame as well. So we have to work around that. So right now, what the department is doing is we're taking a look at the master plan as it exists, not to rewrite the whole document, but as we all know, the world has changed since 2016 in innumerable ways. And it goes without saying, COVID had a big deal to do with that. So our world has changed, but in speaking with the county executive, our goal is not to just throw out the master plan with what we did in 2016, but to go through it, edit it, figure out what worked, what didn't work, and try to revise those things. One of the big things that we're doing is we're going to break out the historic preservation and agricultural preservation chapter, make it two separate chapters. We were told back then to fold them all into one, but just because it's agricultural preservation and historic preservation, and they both have preservation in their names, they don't really speak to each other really well. They're really two separate things. So we're going to break those out as two separate distinct chapters in the code, or I'm sorry, in the plan. So from there, what we will typically do is go into a comprehensive rezoning process. The last one in 2018, we only took in about 115 applications, which was pretty much a historic low from the time of the first comprehensive rezoning in 1982, when we adopted the zoning code basically in the format that we have it now. So what we plan to do is work on the update to the master plan this year and do those edits, and we'll roll them out to the public, and we'll have public meetings. We're not going to do a huge roadshow like we did with the last one because it was entirely new, but we'll start by just going out to the community advisory boards, also the county council, and going over what those changes were that we made to the plan. And then right now, as it stands, I can't tell you exact date of the county's comprehensive rezoning. There are a couple different scenarios that we could go with. Right now, I'm also working on the assumption that we probably will start comprehensive rezoning sometime in the fall of next year, so fall of 2024. So we would finish up the master plan, hopefully have that over to the council by the early part of next year, and then we would ask council to suspend what we call piecemeal rezoning, which is a conversation for a whole other day, and then we would then start taking applications probably in the summer or late summer, and then the code requires that we complete that process within 12 months. So a little bit more about the comprehensive rezoning is the Department of Planning and Zoning reviews all those requests. We get applications in, and we take those, and we have a checklist, and we look at a bunch of different things, transportation, environmental features, all the different things that go into land use planning, and then we make a recommendation. And then also the Planning Advisory Board, and Splash here is on the, do I have anybody else here? I'm sorry, on the Planning Advisory Board. The Splash is a part of our Planning Advisory Board now, and the Planning Advisory Board has a big role in that they also review the requests that are made, and they look at the department's requests, and they make a recommendation to the council. The important thing here is that the Department of Planning and Zoning and the Planning Advisory Board only make a recommendation to the county council. Our recommendation is based on that checklist that we go through, and we look at what they are currently zoned, what they want to be zoned, and then we also look at the bigger version of that map there, which is our land use map. And I would argue, in my mind, that the land use map, the whole county land use map, that is contained within the master plan is really the most important part of that document, of that master plan. It is the heart of that master plan, and it is the main decision-making tool for land use planning in the county. And so the Department of Planning and Zoning should be looking at that when we're looking at applications for rezoning, and certainly the council should be looking at that. But ultimately, we send that package over to the council as a bill with all our recommendations and the PAB's recommendations, and then the county council will act on those requests. They can choose to accept what the department recommended, or they can choose to give the property owner something completely different. It's totally up to them. They should be following the land use plan, but that doesn't always happen. And so what happens from there is they would vote on the entire package, and also, I did forget, sometimes the county will also bring up our own recommendations for requests for zoning changes, but typically those are problems where we found mistakes where the property, like on the map, only shows half the property zoned a certain way because it was a mapping error. Or if we see something that we call like the hole in the donut, there's a property that is zoned one way, but everything around it is zoned another, we may reach out to the property owner and say, hey, look, you didn't request rezoning, but we think it makes sense from a land use perspective that you have this rezoning to whatever it may be, and then we will make the application on their behalf. And so the council would vote on that, and assumedly if they vote it and then vote for it, and then the county executive signs that legislation, then we have a new comprehensive rezoning, and a new zoning map will be made, and therefore those folks that have that new zoning district, if they were looking to do something specific that only that zoning district would allow, then they can move forward with that in accordance with all of the laws and regulations contained within the Harford County Code. So from there, development happens. So I'm not going to get too far down in the weeds in the development. I'm going to kind of go through real quickly with that, and then I think it's probably more important to get to your questions. And then, like I said, I'm happy to come back at any time. I truly do enjoy. My brother and sister are both teachers. I probably should have been a teacher. I do enjoy teaching, and I do for some reason. I really enjoy zoning. I think most people would consider boring, but extremely important topic. So, like I said, we go into development after comprehensive. Well, development happens at any time, but assumedly from comprehensive rezoning, if you have a property that's been rezoned, somebody that's been looking to do a project, then they would submit their plans to the Development Advisory Committee for review, whether it be what we call a site plan. So a site plan is any development of property for a non-residential use, except for multifamily. We consider multifamily to be a site plan. When you hear us say a preliminary plan, we really mean a preliminary subdivision plan. We just pick out that subdivision to make it quicker. Preliminary plan, that's a subdivision of land. So if you think of a piece of pizza that hasn't been cut yet, that's what subdivision review is, and that's what our subdivision regulations show you how to do, how you're gonna cut that pizza into lots. And so that's typically residential, but you can have commercial subdivisions, industrial subdivisions as well to accommodate industrial parks or whatever thing that the developer is looking to do. So the Development Advisory Committee, and I shared this, there's some folks from Rumsey Island who got this, I'm sure they gave me high marks for my last presentation, so that's why I came. But, so the Development Advisory Committee people, a lot of people misunderstand, and it's very understandable. I haven't had a chance to do this research yet, but as I understand it, I believe, and Gloria may know better than I, is that we are kind of an anomaly in the whole state in the sense that we have a Development Advisory Committee and we do not have a planning commission. And I won't get too far down on that, but there's a very distinct difference between the planning commission and the development advisory committee. Why or how, I can't really say because I wasn't around at the time, but we had a planning commission many decades ago. And then with charter government and the way we wanted to do things, we decided we were gonna have a development advisory committee, which is a technical review committee only. So the development advisory committee, if anybody's ever been to one of the ones on Wednesdays, first and third Wednesdays of the month at 9 a.m. in the first floor conference room, you can get frustrated, and I can see why you get frustrated. Because you go there and you say, why am I here? So I get that, I get your frustration. But I think if I can at least explain to you why it is the way it is, at least you can understand where we're coming from the department perspective. The Development Advisory Committee is a technical advisory committee only. It is not an approval committee in the sense of nobody goes around the table and says, you vote for this plan, yes or no, or we're gonna turn it down. No. As director of planning, I hear the gasps already, didn't I? If a plan meets the requirements of the Harford County Code, not just my department, but all departments, State Highway Administration sometimes MDE, if it meets the requirements of the county code, I am obligated to approve that plan. I might not like the plan, you might not like the plan, but under our county code, I'm obligated to approve that plan. Where it's different is a planning commission. A planning commission is typically appointed by a county executive or a mayor, and it could be 5 people, 7 people, whatever their constitution is. And they are citizens that are reviewing a plan and can vote on a project. That has pros and cons, and that's again another topic for another day that we can talk about. And I'm not saying this to suggest that we're going to a planning commission forum, but just to hopefully educate you if you don't understand why we don't have planning commission and how we do things in the county. So the Development Advisory Committee will review that plan, and once they decide that it meets all the requirements of the county code, we will issue a site plan approval letter or a preliminary plan approval letter, which sets out in detail all the things that the developer must do to move forward, because we want to make sure that they meet all those requirements. They're submitting plats, they're showing us the forest retention and doing all the easements and documents and all those things. And then they're off from there, and then you see development happen. So that's kind of the development process in a nutshell. I didn't want to take up entirely, the whole time here. I could talk till midnight, but and I would give them a chance. But I should have brought a guitar with me. It's a little easier. And maybe if you take it easier on me. But if I started singing, everybody would run out of the room. I can guarantee this. So that's the development process in a nutshell. So I can turn it over to questions, or I can go deeper into any topic, however you want to.
You guys, how about we take questions?
I just thought you might want to tell them.
I was told council members would not be answered.
Oh, we're talking about the.
Yeah.
Can't do that. Give them a ballpark about how many requests you get.
For comprehensive rezoning?
Comprehensive, how many?
Well, typically in the past, you can see anywhere from 300 to 600, somewhere in that range. Last time in 2018, we got, I guess we started in 17. We received, I think it was about 115 requests, and we had about 7 or 8 county requests. Yes, sir.
When they approve these buildings and these projects, does anybody look and see what is underneath when they're developing these things? And my example is there are developments in Joppa, Joppatowne, and Edgewood that are built on top of streams, that are trying to build the one over here off of Route 7, which has the Ha branch right into it and under it, which actually comes down under Route 40 here, and comes through the Plecker property, which they wanted to build on. And they were given permission to build, but nobody wanted it, because it will not perk no matter how much you cheat on it. And now you've got this huge monstrosity over here on Magnolia Road being built, and this underground stream that starts from up there around the firehouse comes all the way down underground through here. Why are they allowing to build, and why are they not researching what is below the surface before they start building these things? And a good reason, right down by the Joppa firehouse, just about 100 feet down, it's always wet. We can have the driest summer there at all, and it's always going to be wet because the stream comes up and it comes onto the road right there. Of course, in winter it's even worse, because then it becomes black and white. You know, that road's closed now because of the new 95. Why did they let them build, and why didn't somebody research this before they start digging and building and chopping down trees and things like that? And all of a sudden they chop down all the trees, and now they can't do anything.
I can answer that question. Would not like to answer, but I can answer. So, as I was explaining to some of the Rumsey Island folks, and I'm not, what I'm about to say is not whataboutism. That's not what I'm trying to get at. But you gotta remember, when Joppatowne, the original Joppatowne, Rumsey Island, all that stuff was built, you had no stormwater management at all. You had no critical area. You had no requirements for wetlands, really, correct? I'm pretty confident there was nothing around at that time. There may have been some minimal stuff, some minimal floodplain requirements, but you didn't have any of that stuff. Today, you have a couple different things. Number one, you have to meet the Forest Conservation Act. And the first part of the Forest Conservation Act says any development that happens outside of the critical area, because critical area is different, those projects have to do what's called a forest stand delineation. And you might not have any forest on the property, but you still got to do a forest stand delineation, because it's not only forest. You're looking at all the environmental resources, cultural resources, historic resources, all those things on the property. So a developer or property owner will submit a forest stand delineation to the department. And all of our staff, I think there may be one right now that's getting some training, but all of our staff are trained in a wetland delineation, not actually going out there and delineating, although they do get that trained, but they're more trained to look at wetland delineations, look at soils, make sure they're looking at the soils maps and determining that things are potentially hydric soils, which would then indicate wetlands. And they're going out on site to look at those things. So when you have wetlands and streams, they have protections in the Harford County Code. Wetlands require a 75-foot buffer. The state requires a 25-foot buffer from those wetlands. We require an additional 50 feet, and we have what's called the Natural Resource District. That also covers steep slopes, and we have a 150-foot buffer from the center line of the stream when it's a major stream that drains over 400 acres. So there's other buffers, wetland floodplain buffers and things like that. So I'm not sure what specifically you're talking about. I'm happy to talk to you. You know, you can give me a call and I can look into it further, the specific issue. But I can tell you that today we are out there, we're looking at the environmental resources on site, we're documenting them, and then we're requiring the protections be made. The only impacts that typically can happen in those environmental areas are things like infrastructure. So roadways, water and sewer lines, those types of things can impact and go across wetlands. But they need to go and get permits from MDE and the Army Corps of Engineers. Sometimes what they call a joint application permit, especially if it's got in-stream disturbance, then you'll have to get that joint application permit. So we can't authorize that. Only MDE and the Army Corps of Engineers can authorize those impacts to those wetlands and streams.
Things I'm talking about are current. I mean, I've been here, I'm probably the only person here been only 30 years in Harford County. So, but I know when it started in 1970, my old boss lived in one of the first houses down Breakwater Court, when it was on one exit coming up 95. Anyway, but over here in Avenue, right off of, part of it, close enough to Edgewood, right off of Route 7, where they knocked all those trees down, they went in there without permission, and that was documented. They were told to cease and desist. Now the trees are down. Now it's going through different phases to approve these 1 million foot warehouses in there. And they've got all, we've got all these warehouses in Harford County that are empty anyway. But that's right on top of the Ha-Ha branch. Right on top of it. And if you look at a real map with streams and stuff in it, you'll see that the Ha-Ha branch is into it. And again, this monstrosity over here, they're building up, and I'm just wondering how far down they're gonna go before they strike water, because it's not gonna be very much further. I've watched what they're doing, and there's another big stream that comes down through there, that goes under 95. So.
Well, the second part I forgot to answer, so I'll give you my thoughts on it. Is the underground stuff typically is from a geotechnical perspective for stormwater. So they do borings and things like that because they need to know that whatever's under there is going to be suitable for their stormwater management facilities, and they need to design their facilities around the soils. You know, if there's clay, that's a bit, they're looking at maybe doing something.
Who's the they?
They mean the developer, the consultant, well, the consultant.
Developer does that stuff.
The consultant does the geotechnical analysis, And then they determine what the appropriate stormwater management technique is going to be. And then they submit all that documentation to the engineers in Department of Public Works, who review that and determine, yes, that's an acceptable method of stormwater management, or not, or they need to go back to the law.
Okay, but to kind of piggyback, I've got other questions, but kind of piggyback on what he's saying. You have, like, okay, the weathermen and stuff, they doing specials and they're looking at how the lands are changing and water tables and stuff because of all the things, the earth and the El Nino and La Nina and all that stuff and everything. And I get what he's saying, cause I lived in a kind of, area when I grew up down in Essex where the water, yeah, it was there no matter what. It got to a point where we had to put in another sump pump and stuff because the water tables and stuff shifted and everything. And then my college alma mater, when everything was done and they looked at the land and stuff, everything's fine. Now the dorm building is leaning because, yeah, and so I get his concern of what he's saying. And so what I'm understanding you say is you don't do any oversight of that in terms of making sure that, you know, the houses they're building now, that their surveyor got it right or took certain factors in. Because I hear him, look at that building down there in Miami that just collapsed and swallowed and killed those people. He's saying he doesn't want to see that here, and I agree with him. And then my second part of that question is, in terms of planning and zoning, is that fall into, like, you get the tables and stuff now and keep saying, oh, you don't need to buy flood insurance when you're here, but you looking at the weather things and how the land and stuff can change, and it's like, what do you mean I don't need to buy flood insurance? Cause some of these areas flooded out the last storms and stuff we had. Do you get involved with that, or?
Yes.
So do you work with somebody like the Maryland Insurance Commission? How often do you have, like he's saying with the water, come out and check these, you know, type of things? And, yeah, deal with the infrastructure here. I mean, I know we're not in things like Baltimore City and stuff, cause things newer here, but.
Sure. In response to the first question, or I think it was more of a statement, but the question about what oversight, yes, we are, well, that's what I said, we're giving that oversight. We have a requirement that they submit certain documents and plans, and then our engineers in the county, which is not, this is not a planning and zoning thing, I'll just tell you this, planners are people that weren't smart enough to be engineers, so that's why I'm a planner. So, that's, you know, engineers are smart people, planners are like, well, that's all I can do. So, anyway, the geotechnical analysis is done by engineers in the Department of Public Works. They take a look at those documents and make sure that it meets the compaction requirements for new buildings, and making sure that it meets compaction requirements. I can tell you that there was a project that I was aware of, not in the county, it was one of the municipalities, where when they started doing those geotechnical borings, they started looking at what was under the ground, and they started saying, you know, this is gonna be a lot more costly than we originally anticipated. So that does occur, because one of the things a developer doesn't wanna get into is if they have to start digging and they start out to rock. If they have to start blasting rock, then their cost goes up exponentially. So they are always doing those types of borings to make sure. And I've seen in cases where they did those borings and they didn't hit anything. So as soon as they started developing, they started having to blast rock, because you know, you're taking random samples across the property. The second part of your question is about floodplain. And so the floodplain is really comes down to us from FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Administration. So they, in 2016, updated the floodplain maps. And they went around each jurisdiction. In Harford County, I believe it was 2016, we adopted new, what we call FEMA firms, flood insurance rate maps. And the flood insurance rate maps show where the floodplain is all throughout the county. And the different types of floodplain, whether it be riverine floodplain or coastal floodplain. And yeah, it's based on scientific analysis. Could there be flooding where the floodplain map shows there shouldn't be flooding? Of course, it happens all the time. You can only rely on scientific models to determine where the regulatory floodplain is. And so the regulatory floodplain is then adopted, which was in 2016. And then what we do is we put that into our GIS system. Somebody comes in and wants to get a permit, and we say, sorry, you can't put that in the floodplain. Or, for example, if they wanted to build a new house, we'd say, yeah, you can put the house there, but it has to be elevated 2 feet above the base flood elevation, and you need to do all these other things. So yes, we do regulate the floodplain. We work with citizens to make sure they understand the floodplain, and we also do interface with flood insurance professionals when there are disasters and in between as well.
Okay, and then if I'm understanding. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, if I'm understanding you right with this planning thing as opposed to, you know, you all are kind of the king and that's that. So like, okay, they've had some incidents here in other jurisdictions where they wanted to build detention centers or they wanted to build this. Like Baltimore County, they wanted to build a gas station near the school. So you're saying that as citizens or residents, we don't have say in, hey, we don't want no new jail in our community, or we don't want that, all of that, since we don't have a planning board, just comes down to you all?
No, it has to be a use that's permitted by right or by special exception. That's again, another conversation that can take up hours. But just so you know, certain projects are what we call a special exception, and that requires a specific approval by the Harford County Board of Appeals. And that is a forum in which citizens can go and register their opposition to complaints. Or in the alternative, they can also go and express that they are for a project.
Okay, all right,
Why don't we flip, go side to side? This lady's had her hand up for quite a while.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Go ahead. And then Bill, you'll be back.
Do you have responsibility for stream restoration
No,
projects?
that's Department of Public Works.
Okay.
Yeah, the Rumsey Island folks had a great conversation about that. So they do look at different graded streams throughout the county for projects like that. And it also helps the county in different credits that we get, because we have certain requirements under federal permits to improve our waterways and improve our water quality. So when we do those types of projects, it gives the county credit.
So if we have concerns about a stream restoration project, so like my example, I live in on Cider Press Loop, right behind the high school. They're doing stream restoration. I understand it's an important thing. I have no problem with that. I understand it needs to be done. I understand trees have to come down. That's part of the restoration process. However, the number of trees that are flagged for coming down they're not anywhere near the stream. Our board president for our community spoke with one of the engineers, and they admitted that they had been way overzealous with marking trees to come down, and then never took the flashes off the trees. So as far as we can tell, they're all still coming down. And as mentioned, there's been a lot of forest tear down lately with the Joppa Farm Road extension, with the development on Magnolia. So not only am I concerned just because we're right behind the high school and those trees are a lovely buffer for the sound from the high school, which I love. I have, my daughter's a student at the high school. But also just the number of trees coming down, disturbing wildlife, bringing the wildlife out into the community, and things like that. So I'm trying to figure out how we go about making sure that that's being done responsibly.
I still believe that Christine Buckley, an engineer in our public works group, I still think she is in charge of stream restoration projects. So you may want to reach out to her. I think she works part-time. She's sort of, I think, semi-retired. But Christine Buckley.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
No problem. And it's a Buckley.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I've watched, I'd say 3 or 4 zoning stream/disasters. And it seems unfair to both the developer and the community. Now, this is probably beyond your purview, but maybe you could suggest that your department undertakes a study in advance so that every developer doesn't have to fudge their data and get their thing through. And so you have to read their fudge data. And also, so it saves them money because they've got some information on the books. If you have GIS, you can take any rain event in the county, take a picture of it, and figure out where the rain was. And if somebody would do that, it would probably make development quicker and cheaper, and development in bad areas less likely. Now, that might not be within your purview, but that might be worth suggesting to somebody.
I appreciate that. I would disagree with you to a point on the fudge data. Certainly, I'm sure they fudge data all the time. And that's where my staff calls them out on that. And I've seen it, whether it be transportation related with traffic studies, whether it be with wetlands. I myself, over the years, have called out a number of issues where I said, no, this area is wetlands, and I brought the Army Corps out. And they said, yeah, there's a regulatory wetlands. So.
All I'm saying is some gets through anyway, as I think anybody in this room can testify. And it might be easier if you have a map of where the wetlands problems are that you guys have actually looked into.
I think I understand what you're saying. We have maps throughout the county, or county-wide GIS that has stream data, has hydric soil data, which will say, hey, you need to look in this area. And that's what I was saying earlier. If I look at a plan or a project, well, let me take it from a little bit higher level. I have citizens call me all the time, more so my staff these days, but citizens call me all the time and say, hey, what can I do with my property, or can I build a couple houses here, or whatever. And I will look at that property, and one of the first things I do is I look at the soil survey map. Because if they have a property that's never been mapped or anything like that, it's just an old parcel of ground, doesn't have any studies on it and all, that's one of the first things I or my staff do. We look at the data that we have in our GIS, the soil survey maps, and then also the stream information and other data. We have a whole host of information there to let people, inform people of what they may be encountering on their property. And then we also use that same data when we're reviewing projects.
Something is wrong.
Where specifically?
Magnolia, the area behind Garnett Garden, that whole 4-star property, the area.
Moore's Orchard.
Moore's Orchard. Yeah, pretty much everywhere in Joppa.
Okay. Well, if you're talking about old Joppa.
I'm talking about everything. I don't know Gloria's area that well.
Yeah.
But from 95 south, almost every development has been screwed up by water.
Right, and like I said earlier, many of those developments predate the stormwater requirements and. Not yet. Joppatowne was a community development project originally approved in the 60s.
Okay, Joppa broadly, not Joppa.
Right. Each day that goes by, there's more regulatory requirements from the state and from the federal government, and we're required to abide by them. And the stormwater, our public works engineers, they review those plans, and I'm confident.
Might be less confident.
Go ahead, Adam.
Well, I'm shifting gears. Ralph, was your question pertinent to what Bill was saying?
No.
Okay. Under the old administration, there was a bill passed that created the Magnolia Neighborhood Overlay District, and then there was a bill a couple years later that said, oh, you know what, all of those regulations that we just passed are optional. Well, not optional, it was either you can go under the old zoning or the new Neighborhood Overlay District with a bunch of environmental protections and zoning protections and traffic flow protections and stuff like that. And so the developer over here on 152 and 40, we think opted to go with the old way of doing things, where things weren't nearly as regulated as the Magnolia Neighborhood Overlay District. I know it's probably too late for that, but there's another development that's being planned to potentially take down a bunch of forested wetland and stuff like that. And I was wondering if this administration had any intention of going before the county council again to maybe force the Magnolia Neighborhood Overlay District regulations to, we know it increases density, but it also increases a bunch of protections for this side of, our side of Route 40.
I was heavily involved in preparing that draft of that legislation before I left the county in 2018. And yes, I was dismayed myself that it was kind of changed to make it optional. Easy answer to your question is I haven't heard anything from the administration specific to that question.
I think we would probably support the Magnolia Neighborhood Overlay District restrictions being applied again.
Sure, and of course, I don't mean to put council on the spot, but it's not only the administration that can do those things. Council, if they saw fit, they, they're the legislative branch of government, and they can make those laws as well and change.
Ralph?
Yeah, so it's more just two comments, Shane, as you and I have worked together over the last couple of months, and I've got to know this process a little more. And I think where I was definitely confused was, I felt like there was some committee that was vote yes, vote no. What's really happening is there's a set of laws, and if I comply to those laws, no one in this county has the right to tell me I can't do what I wanna do on my property as long as I live to the set of laws,
That's
right?
correct.
So here's the request. When and who will rewrite those laws to bring them up to date, to be more current to what the needs are in this community now that we have such a tremendous amount of population density and the world has changed in such a way? You don't need to answer that, but I think that the Cassidy administration and what people in Harford County would benefit from is a really true deep dive on that and saying, how do we get to be world-class, best in class on some of these standards and requirements? For instance, Abington Woods would be less offensive to me if the developer was putting solar panels on every inch of that roof, solar panels on every inch of the parking lot, maintaining every ounce of water off of the roof, putting it through a treatment facility, and putting clean water back into the stream. And then reforesting some other, so there's things today that we just gotta stop doing the old way, and there's a request. The second comment I have is, citizens feel like they are powerless because of exactly that, and I'm sure you feel that way. You can't stop it, so you get in these meetings and you get challenged by people and they don't, like, there's nothing you can do, there's nothing we can do as citizens, and that just seems broken. So planning commission, or whatever you wanna call it, something in this county needs to be put in place where the people who you work for have a voice, because you all work for us. And we need to have a voice that when we say, this cannot stand, and we can't be anti-business to everything, I don't think we are. I think we're a balanced community. We're willing to do those things. We're willing to listen. But we don't feel like, over the years I've been here, I would say the majority of people I've talked to don't feel like they get listened to on critical events that happen. So, some way to kind of have more power to the people, so to speak,
Right,
would be really.
I generally agree with everything you said. I think you can see that I'm very transparent, you've worked with me now.
Yep.
As I said, I'm honest when I say I like coming out, and you might not agree with me. Might not like what I have to say, but I'm happy to be here and tell you, I might not like what I have to say, but I'm gonna tell you what it is. True, and what it is. So, like things about solar panels and all, that the state might come down and say that, people have to start doing that, so that's a possibility. There are some things right now, just generally, that are coming out of the state that may significantly reduce the ability for anybody to develop anywhere in the state, related to the Forest Conservation Act. I'm sure a lot of you are happy to hear that because you wouldn't want to see more development, and that's fine, but there's a certain level of development that is necessary and should happen. And the state of Maryland has been working on changes to the Forest Conservation Act that would make it extremely difficult for a lot of people to do development within the development envelope, even where development should go. And I have some real problems with that, because whether or not some of us agree with the development envelope, that the whole, what goes in the development envelope, why we have it, it is a tool that, where we said in the 70s, this is where we're gonna promote growth, and this is where high density growth should go. And that's where we should continue to develop instead of expanding, right? There's always that, well, we don't wanna expand the development envelope. Okay, well, we should be able to develop in this area where it was originally intended. But new laws coming out of the state are gonna significantly preclude that if they pass.
Can I ask you about a specific piece of property?
Sure, if I know about
I'm just wondering, and I'm sure the rest of the Joppa folks are interested, is there any update on the pool property on Joppa?
Yes.
pool property. Okay, right there.
Yeah.
Nah, I haven't heard anything on that.
Okay, we haven't either, we just wondered if there was an update.
Yeah, how long has the plan been submitted? I mean.
10 years.
Yeah.
It's been 10 years.
Is the
Because I've
plan
been off
dead
the state.
after a
It
while?
was 2 years before I
Take
left
a check
office.
on that?
Sure.
I mean, well,
Can
we
you
know
do
what we're going
Gloria.
to, Gloria, that we went to
Can
the
you-
DAC meeting on that. Oh, yeah.
Gloria, can you send me an email? Can you send me an email? Remind me.
Oh, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, I'm not, full disclosure, I'm not real familiar with the plan on that property. I'm familiar with the
Yeah,
property.
and that's just something that you can get an update for.
Sure, I can.
It's just sitting and rotting.
Yep.
You do know which property I'm.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Dealt with it over the years.
So have we.
Yeah, so
And do we have other questions?
I've got one.
Gloria?
I've got one. Yeah, at the TAC meeting, I've been listening to Ron and Jim for years say, you know, the ambulance can't take them to Harford up here, upper Chesapeake. And they can't take them to Baltimore, they take them to Delaware, they take them all kinds of places. There is nowhere that I've seen in DAC where the ability of the local hospitals to serve people is a requirement.
It's gotten worse.
Yeah, and, yeah, you stick around, they'll show you. So, why don't you give them some teeth? And there's Hackley's Reserve, when that first came in, it was, townhouses with no access to the rear porches. I mean, they would have to go through somebody's house to put out a fire on the rear porch. I mean, and the fire guy sitting there at the DAC meeting said, well, you can't do this, and the law said you could. I think that's awful.
I'll go check on that, because I believe the subdivision regulations do require that there be access to the rear of all townhouses.
But if you have a block, you know, there was no alley back behind it, yeah, maybe that's changed, but I'd like to see the EMTs and the fire service have more say into development. I mean, we're just totally ignored.
Well, it's a little different, but when I was in Harvard, you know, we fought, tried to keep the hospital there, and that was kind of a losing
Yeah,
battle.
yeah.
And so we're losing those services on that end of the county.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen that more recently. I know that EMS has reported, the last couple of weekends, and believe it or not, it's not from COVID. They've had some really dire situations at the hospital where they've had ambulances backing up. Because they've had people in the hallways and so we're losing that capacity elsewhere. But I'm not an expert on hospitals and how all that works, but I hear you. I definitely hear you.
Yeah, we really should take into effect the health and safety of our residents when we build new and more.
Yeah, that was the other question I had, I wanted to get to the other people, but, okay, with your zoning and your whole plan, like, things like, okay, they just released the census numbers, so you're saying your plan was in 2016, looking at some of the stuff, because, okay, well, University of Maryland keeps going back and forth, but in the meantime, you need it, because I should have been able to Franklin Square or whatever and everything and stuff. So aren't those some things that you need to put in your plan to work on? Well, we need another hospital up here, we need this. And then also with that, with the zoning and planning, do you work with other state and federal agencies? Like, how much do you all have communication with the U.S. Geological Survey? Because if you go to them and you read OSHA, last year I signed up for the newsletters from every federal branch of the government and everything, and they got some stuff in there talking about these platelet shifts and all of that stuff and everything, because they were saying part of the reason they think that building and condo had collapsed in Miami is because of pulls on the plates and everything and stuff. And it's like, you have a lot of waterways here that you have to take into consideration. So is that a part of the process? Because like you were saying, yeah, some of these people and stuff, engineers or different things, or people being there. My girlfriend, she's an optical engineer, and she had to cut the thing in the state. They get ready to build this bridge, and after so many years, it would have collapsed. So that's why I'm asking, because you're our last line of defense for safety, sir. And
Well, I think I answered that question previously with the geotechnical studies that are done, specifically with stormwater management and things like that. But when you're building a big hospital or anything, any large structure like that, you're looking at this subsurface geology because you want to make sure that you're putting the right foundation in. And like I said earlier, I saw that at another project where they realized that building a new hospital on the site or building a new facility on the site was not really feasible because of the geology underground and what they'd have to do to put in a foundation that could hold the building. So yes, that happens. A little bit different scenario in Miami, that's coastal engineering, that's a whole other ball of wax. It's still building construction, but that's coastal engineering, which is completely different.
Well, since, county executive wants to, like I was discussing with you before, since he wants to stop, you know, and not do, all of these warehouses and everything, and have ones empty, is that an option of converting and getting someone in to bring another medical facility to the area?
That ain't gonna happen. No.
No.
And Jim will have it in his report. There's a commission that does for the state that decides what hospitals go where and what hospitals close. The county basically has no say in it. I hate to say that, but I'm gonna tell you the truth, but Jim will say in his report, when we split our reports now, there's a commission that's in charge of that, and Jim will read what happened. We sent the letter to the commission, we'll read the response.
The healthcare commission.
From there, but that's above, way above the county's.
Even though you do the
County
plan,
one.
you don't get to do.
Those are state level planners that are planning, doing hospital planning. I mean, our local representatives can push for hospitals and things like that, but when it comes to determining where a hospital should go, that is really up to the healthcare commission, to determine that. And that's where, like, the city of Harvard Grace was fighting, or, I could say fighting, fighting with healthcare commission to say, please, we need to keep this facility here, and these are all the reasons why. And ultimately, the decision was up to them that, no, the services are needed elsewhere or should be elsewhere.
Okay, we don't have any other questions, and we're gonna ask you to come back over and
Sorry, I don't have
over
a
and over.
card.
Oh, I'm sorry, did you have one?
I just have one question. So the best resource from going from site plan through DAC, what would be the best resource for a citizen or this board to inform citizens of this area to track the process?
Okay, well, that's a great question. I didn't give this to you beforehand. I didn't give you the softball. So, number one, we have what's called our Track It app online, and I can help anybody if they don't understand how to use it. It's very intuitive. You can go on that. You can just look up Harford County Track It, and that'll show you every project across the county that is currently been submitted through the Development Advisory Committee, a community input meeting, or through the Board of Appeals. But new to that, which hopefully we're gonna unveil any day now, it's about a month behind because of some technical limitations with email. We're going to be rolling out, I don't know if we have a name for it yet, but in addition to the Track It app, where you will be able to sign up for updates from Track It. So you could then sign up for the email and get updates on that specific project, or there's also a way, I think they have it set up too, so that if you're just interested in general in the county, you can get those DAC agendas sent to you specific. I mean, you can go online to get them already, but if you want them sent to you as soon as they're put out, then we can do that for you through that. So I expect that'll roll out next week. I think we've got all our email things figured out.
Okay.
Is that what it's called, Track It?
It's called the Track It app, yes. It's not like an app you put on your phone, it's just a web page that you go to on our web page, and it's a mapping tool, just like you've used Google Earth or Bing Maps or anything like that. Same thing, scroll in, and there'll be a little color like red for DAC, black for community input meetings, blue for Board of Appeals, and you can click on that, and it'll take you to, it'll give you a link that you can get more information on that and other data.
So I am a little concerned, what everyone said here. You do the planning, but yet you don't know anything about the hospitals and how many people they can treat, all that. So we just approved all these units over here and all these people coming into the neighborhood. Yet our current medical facilities here can't support the community as it is. Not to mention like other things in our community, like we don't even have a supermarket, other than the food line that's over on the backside. We lost the one here. So, and the shelves over there are typically half full. You've got revenues down the road. So you're gonna approve all these other units, and we don't really have the infrastructure here to support them. You may say you have the water, you got the sewer, you got plenty of land you can sell over there. But the highways, the roads, the hospitals, schools, is that all figured into your planning?
Yeah, it is.
Or is it just like, hey, as long as they met the law, we can't stop them?
No, so I guess I'll put the question back on you. How do you foresee planning getting a grocery store into your community. I can't force someone to have a grocery store on their property. I can't come to you if you own a property in zone B3 and say, hey, we need a grocery store here, and you're gonna develop a grocery store. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. I have a master plan that says, yes, we desire these things in the community. We've identified that there's food insecurity in this community, or we need a grocery store here, or whatever. I can't force somebody to develop it because I want the grocery store there. We can set the zoning in place that allows those types of things, but it's up to that individual property owner to determine what it is that they want to do with their property.
I'm gonna take the last two questions, because then we have a lot of other, so, most on this, like, go ahead.
He was up front. I was just gonna say, a way to look at his question or response, I understand what you're saying, correct, but if we would add to the conditions that you need to fulfill, yes, you can't build on underground streams, you know, you have to have the forest taken care of, but you also have to have enough hospitals for the new people that you're gonna add in. So could that be one of the requirements that you look at?
No, because I can't require hospitals.
Do we need to change the laws to make that?
You need to go to the state. The
Yeah.
state wholly encompasses that area. I have no.
I mean, to me, it makes common sense to say, if we're gonna allow you to build more housing, we have to have enough, you know.
That's a commission way above his pay,
Right,
way
yeah.
above our pay grade. Jim was talking about.
Yeah, I'm not pointing the finger at him, I'm trying to make it,
Just one at a
you know,
time.
be heard.
Yeah, Jim will have some information, that he'll talk, will give you all information, about what's going on about that.
Okay.
Thanks. That's something we have no
Just
control
hang on.
over.
We had the question on the side.
That's all right.
No, go ahead.
Not, well, before we go to the stores, you've got schools, hospitals. What happens with those 396 houses? How many people are gonna be over there, originally reserved? How many people? Kids, where are they gonna go to school?
We've got 990 houses approved between 152, 40, and then stream the river. Yeah, 900.
Yeah, it appears to me that you need to come back again. It appears to me. Well, like I said, you can see there are a lot of concerns, so we would appreciate it. In another, like, couple of months, we'll come back and maybe give us an update on some of the other things that are going on. Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a lot of other presenters, so, I have asked that if you can, to try and keep your remarks at least to about 10 minutes. If you have to go over, please try to keep them as concise as you can, okay? Well, I got All right, so, county council president's update, Samantha?
Yep, in the interest of time, I'll just be really quick. So I passed around the county council highlights from our office. If you didn't get a copy, I left some extras up there, and if we run out, I only printed 20 because I wasn't sure how many. I do have one copy here, and I think I have some cards, or I can send some to Paula, and she can print them off. So essentially what these are kind of more detailed version of the council minutes. These ones go all over, all of our meetings in March. And then, the one announcement I wanted to make is we're getting into budget season for the county. So we're gonna have 4 work sessions where the different heads of the department, so Shane Grimm will come over, along with the county executive's budget team, and kind of go over line by line for the budget. So those are April 19th, 20th, 24th, and 25th, and they pretty much run all day. The schedule will be announced probably at the next council meeting. I think Council President Vincent's gonna go over that. And then we do 2 budget public hearings. One will be on May 4th, and then the other will be May 10th, and they both start at 7 p.m.
And where are they all?
They're all at the Harford County Council building in Bel Air.
Okay.
Are they gonna be recorded?
Audio. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay. Any questions for Samantha? Like I said, for the folks that don't know, that are new to the meeting, Samantha worked for Pat Vincente, who's the county council president, so she has all the hot news.
And she has great minutes, really does.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I got a copy of the,
Sure.
you said she left.
Yep, I have one extra copy, I'll give it to you at the end of the meeting.
Okay, thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Okay, so now we have some county updates, and I really want to welcome Lenora Robinson. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm thrilled to be working with you. She is our new liaison. She's our new Sylvia Bryan. And, you know, I'm gonna ask at the end of the meeting that everybody get my email address so that when you have a speaker that you like or topic that you want, I'm able to go to Lenore and say, this is what we'd like to have come out to speak at our meetings, and so she'll be working with us. So she brings updates from the county itself and events that the county is at. Lenore, the floor is yours.
Yes, good evening to everyone. I would like to let everyone know that I did bring some flyers and handouts. Harford County, we have an urgent need for paramedics and emergency medical technicians, EMTS. We keep wanting to keep our county safe, but we have positions here, and I didn't bring enough, like Samantha Harris said, for the volume of people that are here, but anyone would like to take one, they are welcome to take one at that particular time. There are immediate openings in the Department of Emergency Services, a $5,000 sign-on bonus, 24/72 schedules, competitive salaries, tuition reimbursement as well. I made some notes for myself so I wouldn't miss any of the points here. We also would like you to know that we have the prescription drug take back, which is April 22nd. I have flyers for that as well. That's also something that's going to help everyone within the county. Empowered Expo for our teens and young adults with disabilities. That will be held on April 22nd. On April the 7th, we have Arbor Day, which is from 7 to 10 a.m. And all the information that I'm sharing with you this evening, you can find on our county website. The transparency that we provide when you need information, you can go there, which is www.harfordcountymd.gov. You can go right to the site, and if you don't get what you're looking for on that particular page, there is a rectangular box. You can put in the box what you're looking for, and it will pop up. We need volunteers for planting the tree that I mentioned earlier. So if we could get some volunteers, young people always need something to do to keep them occupied. COVID closed out a lot of things. I'm sure they can't wait to get outside, not to cut grass, but to maybe plant a tree for that. Free emergency preparedness. Classes are being held April the 17th through May the 8th. So we have flyers on that information as well. I'm going to share that going in that direction. And we have what we call a brief survey that you'll be able to take online, and there is an empowerment journey to adulthood. So you have young people or young adults, 21 years of age, that will help as well, which is April 22nd, 8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Bel Air High School. Once again, all the information that we're bringing back from the county is to help everyone here in this entire, not only community, but the county in general. Thank you.
Any questions for Lenora?
Everything's laid out on the table here. If people need them.
Yeah, there's flyers that you can, take it and have the information. Okay, our fire safety report is Ron Solid. Ron, you're up.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Those who don't know me, I'm Ron Solid. I'm the Fire Prevention Community Safety Coordinator for Harford County. I'm going for over 33 years. Just to let you know, and mainly what we talk about tonight, because we only got 10 minutes, is first of all, if you haven't seen it by now, Brian Geraci, our fire marshal, is very upset because we had 40 deaths in the state so far this year. Last year, this time, we had 30. We've had 3 in Harford County, along with several pets. And The one in Bel Air, I can tell you about, was unfortunate situation, but I know the papers and they like to centralize things and say it was an explosion. But basically, there was no explosion. There was a fire inside the house. What the people heard and thought was an explosion was actually when the pressure builds up, it blew out the windows. But there wasn't a real gas explosion like it was like originally reported. And then one person did die in that particular fire. And then we had a couple in Jarrettsville that died in the fire. Now, number one thing I want to tell you, and I brought some information, is that, first of all, big fire starts small. You can play up as you want to get them after the meeting, but I'll be here for a little while if you want to talk. Candles and these little things you use that are light at night and sometimes cigarettes. Number one cause of fires right now in the home across the United States, kitchen fires. Stove fires are 80%, oven fires are 20%. Now we're saying, why are they the most cause of fires? Because we've got these devices now that take our minds off things. We've got big ones, we've got little ones, we've got all kinds of them. We've got ears plugged in. We've got to keep an eye on our food when you're cooking. Do not leave food unattended. It's easy to talk about and it's easy to say. Another little brochure from the National Fire Protection Association tells you how fast fire can move, how fast things do spread. You don't realize it. And then something new just came out is a fire safety for older adults and caregivers. Okay, this is something new, some new information. There's also a new one out on lithium-ion batteries. Just want to tell you one thing about lithium-ion battery car. You may have seen some things online. There was two of them that just happened just recently in Kansas City. 2 cars were plugged in. Both of them caught fire. They were off. They were just plugged in. Okay. I know what they're trying to do, and I know what the new governor wants to do is have all electric cars and all this crap by 2035. It ain't gonna happen, people. Number one, these things are too dangerous. Lithium-ion batteries are hard to do. Typical car fire for the fire department takes one engine, about 750 to 1,000 gallons to put out. If you've got an electric car, we're talking 3 or more engines. And then we're not sure it's out. There's been several instances that have been documented where the car caught fire, completely destroyed, tow it away to the junkyard, 2 days later it caught fire again. I mean, caught fire, not just smoldering. So these are things you want to be aware of. Lithium-ion batteries. Recently, when we did meet in January and February, you saw on the news about fires in New York and Philadelphia. Multiple loss of life, 30 people plus in each one of those. Cause of those fires, lithium-ion battery. People had those electric bikes, electric scooters plugged into the wall overnight. Okay, these batteries heat up. They heat up, they get hot, and next thing you know, they're going to start bursting, they're going to start burning. If you have these electric scooters, you get them for the holidays, for the kids, or grandkids, or whatever, don't leave them plugged in overnight. Now, I will tell you that very soon, United Laboratories, who covers most of you all listening, which covers most of electronic products throughout the United States, will have a new law in place by the end of the year that all these new products, these companies buy stuff, once they're charged, they must shut off. However, they're not on the market yet. They're not on the market yet. So make sure they are unplugged at night. Same thing with these things. These things need to breathe. You should not leave them plugged in around. A lot of people do leave them out. But we've had several instances where teenagers, they don't want the parents to know they're on the phone, so they hide it under their pillow and they have it plugged in. Well, they heat up, they need air to breathe, believe it or not. They will heat up fast. Some of you may have experienced it when they're just sitting on the phone so long or something, it starts to get hot. Okay, these are very dangerous. These cause a lot of facial burns, things like that. None of that, they can explode. Okay, there's a little battery there too. If that explodes and gets over, you're gonna be calling us for help. You're probably sitting at the hospital for an hour because you can't get in. And that's a whole other story. I'm gonna let you I've been doing EMS now for the last 20-some years, and it's got to be real bad. So the other thing is, check your smoke alarms, make sure they're working. If they're chirping, change the battery. If you've had them in your place more than 10 years, they need to be replaced. Bottom line, there's no refurbishing them or anything like that. Get rid of them. We do have a free smoke alarm program in Harford County. You can contact myself or contact any of the fire stations or contact my email. The information will get to me. We'll come out, we'll replace any battery operated smoke alarms. They're a 10-year battery. They don't replace them, do anything with them, just test them once a month, and they go for 10 years. After 10 years, they won't go out, we do another one.
lithium-ion battery.
It's not a lithium ion though. It's a different type of battery. And you're gonna see, yeah.
Will that work with like the system in the house that they're all
Okay,
connected?
that's another thing. There are some that do.
Okay.
There are hardwired ones, which we're not allowed to put in.
Okay,
We're not electricians.
it's all good. I
I'm
was
not
just
gonna say I
curious.
haven't done any, but for elderly people, I make exceptions. But anyway, and I'm part of that crew. I'm probably as old as most of the people in here, but anyway, I will put in the 10-year battery one as a backup. And for those of you who don't know, the law was passed in 2016. We fought on it in 2013 and 2016 about these battery-only smoke alarms with a 10-year battery. Believe it or not, if you were to sell your house right now in Maryland, if it does not have a 10-year battery smoke alarm in it, you can't sell it. You'd be a number of realtors that are calling me, that are telling me this house needs smoke alarms, they're bad. And I walk in and where's all the furniture? Oh, they're moving out. They can't sell it until we're not past inspections, you have a 10-year smoke alarm. So they must have a 10-year battery in. There are hardwired 10-year battery ones on the market now. Home Depot, Walmart, some of the bigger box stores do carry, and they're not cheap. And I can tell you one more thing is that there's a new generation of smoke alarms that was supposed to be out that they're still working on. I saw it at a trade show a couple years ago where it will detect the difference between cooking smoke and a real fire, so that you won't get all the false alarms when you forget the toast, or the toast gets stuck. Or what? Or something like that. And I'll talk just about the difference, and believe it or not, that there is a difference in the smoke coming from burnt toast as opposed to burning food or something, or a fire. Anything from maybe it's man-made, or which is most of your food, okay, has a moisture in it, okay. A fire burning, when your place catches on fire, there's no moisture. It's a dry fire, sort of like a dry heat and humidity. You know, if you're from Maryland, you know what I'm talking about when I say humidity. Basically, that's the difference. It's more a real fire is more of dry heat, so it won't set them off. They won't get them off as often. Okay, now, and what time bring short, and then you got a question?
Yeah, and then we had a question on this side also.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Describe not cheap.
What's that? Describe not, well, let's put it this way. What price do you put on your life and your family's life?
No.
Yeah, you're talking about $20, $30, depending on what you're talking about. Do not get the ones that are combinations, CO alarm and smoke alarm. A lot of places are selling them. The state is looking to outlaw them in the state of Maryland. The reason being because if your CO alarm is up on the ceiling and your smoke alarm's up on the ceiling, if there's CO and your CO is a lot heavier than smoke. It's been proven, it's been tested, that there are facts, these are facts. CO alarm should be about the height of your outlets on the floor, which is usually about 18 to 24 inches. They should be low because as the CO starts to build up, you're not going to smell it, taste it, hear it, or anything else. As soon as it hits that alarm, it'll set off. If it's up on the ceiling, guess what? The room's filled with CO. Are you going to hear that alarm? Probably not. And unfortunately, we'll probably be out there taking you out on a stretcher. Yes?
So I'm the branch manager for the Edgewood Boys and Girls Club and my program over there in Miss Valley. I was just wondering, what do you guys do, since I'm working with like over 120 kids in our community, what do you guys do to kind of teach our kids about fire prevention and safety?
Boy, that's a great question.
Joppa was out there.
Yes.
Saturday.
But unfortunately, we were up at the Harford 250 celebration. I have this 35-foot safety trailer, okay? 30-foot long, 35 feet long, 10 feet wide. It's got a kitchen module. It's got a touch screen. It's all automated. We punch the screen. We put it age appropriate, ask questions. Usually I keep it on the 4 to 6-year-old questions and the parents can't get it right. Believe it or not, no lie. We put 200 people through here and half the people got the questions wrong. But we go through it and it's not to say you're stupid, okay? It's a learning thing. It's a learning project. The county got it. I put it in the budget last year and we finally got it. I tried to get grants for 3 years. We didn't quite make it, so we finally got the county to pay for it. Anyway, and it's got a bedroom module, which we talk about the different alarms, how to tell the difference between a CO alarm and a smoke alarm going off, and how to tell the difference if your smoke alarm, if it's just a battery going bad. Okay, so there is a difference in those. And we will bring it out free of charge.
So we just, for anyone else, if they wanted to teach their kids or have kind of an event, like we had.
Yeah. We bring it out to you, and we let the kids get through it. We make it age appropriate. We bring giveaways with us all the time we come out. because most of the time, most of the kids will do it anyway. Even at the event at the Harford 250 celebration this weekend, it's mostly children. And it's a good learning tool, and it can be changed as standards change or questions, the answers to the questions might change a little bit. We can update it, because it's all automated. We have, so it's got our own Wi-Fi system, so we can update it. If it's something you really wanna see, and I'll be happy to bring it out to you, and I'll have to get some more cards, I give my last one to Shane. But if you do want it to come out from your organization, your church, whatever, for an event, you know, figure about 2-3 hours at the least. Okay, it's not something that's just gonna happen in an hour, I can tell you that, because they're gonna ask questions, we're gonna go through things, we're gonna go through some scenarios, and we'll have to answer different questions. So, and it will take some time. So, with that,
Yes, and then, yeah, let's take the last question.
Just really quickly, you mentioned batteries, you mentioned smoke detectors, mine was more like GFIs. I have all electric house.
okay.
So we've had some shorting out, is it a lifespan, where we need to check on?
8 to 10 years, 10 years is the maximum for a smoke alarm.
Okay, for the GFIs, how often, because mine is.
You're talking the GFI itself?
Yes.
Okay, that depends on the house, I can't tell you that's on the electrical, that's, I mean, I know some stuff, but it's above me to give you legal advice about it. The GFI, they should replace periodically, if your plug is falling out, they need to replace it. When I moved into my townhome, I had to replace all of them, because the plug in just fell out, because the prongs, they do wear out on the GFI, so. They should be replaced when they're not working properly, if they're constantly blowing, constantly shorting out. Check it out. You gotta remember, all your GFIs are connected together, for your outdoor socket as well as your bathrooms and kitchen. So if you got a GFI that's going off, it could possibly be one of the other ones, because they're all connected together on the same circuit. Why, I don't know, that makes sense to make it.
Okay.
I don't make the rules. Yes?
So, I mean, for your question on the GFIs, they do go bad over time. You have a test button. The newer ones have a green and a red button when you put them in, but you do have to replace them every so often.
Yeah, I don't know how often.
There's not like a time period. I don't know.
They will tell you.
What's that?
They will tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
GFI just won't work. You don't have to worry about them. That's why you have them. I'm from electricians for years. The GFIs are made that way on purpose. So when they no longer, you can't operate them, make them work, they're no longer ready, you have to replace them.
And if they're above water, they'll probably go bad quicker, again, because of the air and water and stuff like that. And again, you're never telling them whether some of you are, they may go quicker than other ones, but it's just a matter of, you know, when you think it doesn't reset or the reset button doesn't work, just reset. I don't think there's any real given time limit for them. Any other questions for me?
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
All right, Dion, I know that this.
I'm gonna jump in at Dion.
Okay.
Just to follow up what Ron told you about, I had some tools, but to answer your question, you've answered part of it, but we also have a cadet program through our County Volunteer Association, that juniors, this is a good time, I was gonna bring it up, juniors in high school can apply for their senior year they have to join a volunteer fire company to do it, because it's taught by the Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute, which will teach them for free. But by joining the fire company, they're covered by insurance. But it'll run them through a whole year of firefighter 1, EMT, and hazmat. By the time they graduate, all right, they gotta pass a test and be certified, all right? By the time they graduate, and if they're the 17, 18-year-old, but if they're 18, they can pretty well find a job anywhere in the United States as EMTs, and then go on from there. That's in all high schools, and we have a real problem getting the various high schools to go along and cooperate with us in Harford County. They really do. But that's available. So if you have any ones in Edgewood High School or Joppatowne High School, or even because of Mr. Penman's area where we live, Folsom High School, it's all available throughout the county. And then they will roll and they'll get through that training, right, through that whole year, along with their other classes that they take. So that's one thing if they're interested. They just got to join a volunteer fire company, because that one covers their insurance. That's the most important thing. And then they can get a whole year of it. That's one. And we're trying, the county association through Ron and all has been very active. Joppa's got a a really nice lady who really jumped into the thing, and that's why we come to you, but we'll come out again, I can tell you, or anywhere else we can do it. I think it was a good presentation Saturday, wasn't it? All right, so that's one. Two, on what, Ms. Thompson said, as of Sunday, the county exec and all, it's been ongoing since he took office, basically switching to career EMS service in the county. And that's why they're trying to find paramedics and EMTs, and like everywhere else in every other county and Mavic, up and down the United States, they can't find enough paramedics, they can't find enough EMTs. And I saw the ad, the starting salary as a paramedic for Harford County is $60,000 a year. And EMTs is $54,000, $55,000, all right? But Joppa's got one crew daytime that we've been paying and supplementing all along, and now we've got one of the white, if you see one of the white, all white ambulances, that's a county career ambulance now. We have one now at House 1, we still have our crew at House 3 here on Hanson Road. We're gonna maintain at least 2 ambulances with volunteer crews, which we've worked out that we'll be able to respond along with it, but they're gonna stop announcing ambulance calls and just dispatch them. So if you're a volunteer, until you hear them go out, you're not gonna know there's an ambulance call going on. You're gonna have to be in the station, so that's another thing that they're doing, they're stopping announcing, for what we call 1099 for a crew. They're stopping that as of Sunday, all right? So the county has gone to a career motion for, ambulance service. The other thing that goes along with that, we've talked about hospitals. We've got a letter, I got a copy here that I can make copies of, that was sent to the Maryland Healthcare Commission on Patterson Avenue, up in Pimlico, 21215, and about the ambulance problem with the hospitals. We're getting patients to the hospitals and sit there for half an hour, 3 hours, because the beds are full. And we call them boarders. They can't, they're sick enough to be in the hospital, but they're so full they can't move them up the stairs to a bed. So you can call an ambulance, and it might be a Joppa Magnolia ambulance here, it might be a county ambulance, it could be Abingdon, it could be Kingsville, it could be Blair, it all depends what's available. They're gonna dispatch the closest ambulance. But if the hospital's on bypass, like it was a couple times on Saturday, and Ron says this afternoon twice, they went to all staffing because of the backup. If they're stacked up and full, Franklin's usually just as busy, and Harford is the other outlet. The problem is, you know, the hospital cost review is closing down, and so is Upper Chesapeake and the University of Maryland. They're closing Harford down. We're losing those beds, all right? And the population's going up. There's 43 emergency room beds in the ER at Upper Chesapeake, all right? And if they're full, they're full. And I can tell you, we've had ambulances sitting around for maybe a half hour, maybe 3 hours. And if you're in the back of the ambulance, you're wondering why. You know, I called and I'm not getting in the hospital. It's not the ambulance crew's fault. And it's, frankly, I'm not even gonna blame it on the ER. The nurse staffing is not up. They can't find enough nurses to do the job. Same way we can't find enough paramedics and EMTs to do the job. So it's a problem, and we're increasing the population of the county. I mean, we've got just that here with 600 to 900 homeschooling. If you put 3 persons in each home, all right, we're across 3,000 patients. So just take a percentage every day. So it's a problem.
Right now, there's a 1 hour wait to get into Upper Chesapeake. We do have an app on our phones. There's a 1 hour wait for an ambulance to unload right now. Upper Chesapeake. Harford Memorial is in 30 minutes.
About the farthest we go is down this area is Bayview, the old city hospital. Franklin and Bayview, right? It used to be, I remember when I started riding Joppa in the late 60s and early 70s on the ambulance, GBMC and St. Joe was the closest after Harford Memorial, all right? And we showed up at St. Joe today, I wonder where we're from. Because unfortunately, they're just as busy. But the Hospital Cost Review Commission that dictates the number of beds wants you bringing them into the city. to fill the beds in the cities. They're not worried about, and haven't been worried about, the beds in the county or the expansion in the counties. And that's gonna fall back on some political stuff, if you will, but man, you're really bucking a group, that decide what they wanna do, and they could care less, in my opinion, say Jim Lyons said that, they could care less about us folks up here, or in Carroll County, or you name your area. They wanna fill all the beds in the hospital, but, transport in a half hour or 45 minutes, and over the last year or 6 months, all around the Baltimore area, there's been people waiting in back of an ambulance to be able to get into the ER to get on the stretcher. Go ahead,
Bayview
Ron.
right now is 55-minute wait, Johns Hopkins is 66-minute wait, Mercy Hospital's 11 minutes away to Mercy. That just give you an idea.
Yeah.
And these are updated times.
I'm real Chris, I just got some numbers so you get an idea. Joppa Magnolia, since October to February, ran 1,513 ambulance calls. Abingdon, next to us, ran 2,800 ambulance calls, all right? Keep in mind, Abingdon's on that Route 24 up into Blair and running back and forth. Joppa ran 596 fire responses, and Abingdon ran 798, just to give you a handle on the number of calls that are going on. And if anybody wants to see this letter, you come up, you're welcome to read it, and if I can get a copy done, I'll do that. Okay.
Yeah, is there a way with your volunteer program with the EMTs and everything, or maybe to branch it out? Because one big problem that they're having that piggybacks into you guys is they don't have the staff to move the people around the hospital.
That's right.
Cause like out in GBMC, they have my aunt works for Lifebridge and everything, and my uncle, all his medical care, the last couple times, it wasn't that they didn't have a bed and stuff, they didn't have transport, so he spent an extra hour and something down in the ER, waiting just for transport to the room.
But that backs up everybody else.
Right, and so, yeah, that's why I'm wondering if maybe there's some kind of way to, yeah, cause that's crazy, cause you can't have your resources tied up and everything, you already got a lot of volunteer staff.
But the University of Maryland's closing Harford Memorial. They're building a 24-bed facility in Aberdeen, which is like a 48-hour facility, hold it to move you on. I'll visit that with you.
Okay. We're gonna,
I'm done.
Okay, because we're gonna move ahead, because time-wise, it's a quarter to 9. It is a quarter to 9, and we still have Dion and Aaron, so.
I know some people wanna see basketball.
Well, if you're gonna listen to Dion, that's gonna mess it. He didn't read the 10-minute whatever that I tried to put on there, he read it and said, yeah, right.
Just to talk about renters for a second, since it was brought up, they're coming up on their 20-year lease, okay? And, it's, shaky ground, because I remember when renters came in here, Richard Redner called me up, I was on the council then, we wanted to go have lunch and talk about building a supermarket here. And, so we had lunch and talked about it, and I told him how bad we needed one, because there ain't one within 5 miles of this place. And so he agreed to build it. So then I remember on ribbon cutting day, when I went down there, Richard said to me, he said, hey, Dion Grimm, what? He said, let me tell you something. If I knew what I had to go through to build it, he's got about 40 grocery stores all through Pennsylvania and Maryland, mostly in Pennsylvania. He said, if I knew what I had to do with this David Cordage, he said, I had never built this grocery store. So on top of that, for the last 20 years, they've been fighting, suing each other, and everything else. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that he'll renew a lease. And yeah, been 20 years. Yeah. I passed my bill out I passed my bill out on the natural resources zoning issue. I hope everybody got a copy of it. What this is we had this done once before, and Craig slid a amendment in to stick in this so-called natural resource district, which literally in most of these developments doesn't even exist, but the problem is, they allowed the developer to decide that where they were gonna build the houses is a natural resource district, even if it isn't one. So, what I've done, and Aaron signed on, and so did 2 other council members, signed on my bill to make R1 single-family homes, and it's the only thing you can build there. You cannot build townhomes in a R1 district. That development up there on 152, that's all R1. But because they could call it this so-called natural resource district, they could pump it up and pump part of it up into the next development code, which is R2. R2 is townhouses, R3 is townhouses, R4 is townhouses. Each one is more. So what they were able to do here, in that development, they would only normally be allowed to build 300 single-family homes. But since they bumped it up with this so-called LRD district, they now can build, then they drop down the single-family homes to 200 and build 188 townhomes and cram it into the lower part of that whole development. So now it's 388. So as they were talking about how many people per house and cars per house, the county estimates that for every house you build, it's about 2.5 cars, or 2 3/4. I don't have it 3/4 of a car.
10 trips a day.
Yeah, 10 trips a day. But if you calculate that out, you take 388 homes and you figure that out, and from the change of 300 to 388, with 188 of them being townhomes, you jump from about 600 and some cars to 1,000 in the same district. So my bill's a little late for that. If I'd have known it, I probably would have done it a long time ago, but it happened in 2014, I was leaving office. So anyway, now, this bill, which will be voted on tomorrow night by the council, and I have 4 council members, counting myself, sign on to the bill. And Aaron's here, myself, and I appreciate this support. Him and I work very good together on the council, and we expect this to be passed tomorrow night. On the back wall, that when you get done, the meeting's over, you go back and look at that map. Debbie Button, this is my legislative aide. I was lucky enough to pick her up. One of the other council members lost their position, and Debbie was available, and so I was able to get somebody with her. How many years experience do you have?
Altogether, or?
Altogether.
20 years.
Yeah, she's got 20 years, so I was really lucky to get her, and she keeps me in line. Anyway, she made that up. And I want you to take a look at that, and they're all numbered. There are 8 developments in District A, okay? And they're all numbered right on there. Number 1's Ravenswood, it's 27 townhouses. In District 2, Ridgely Reserves, what we just talked about, instead of 300, it's 388 single family and townhouses, 188 of them townhouses. Trumbull Knoll is 16 single family homes. Trumbull Meadows is 188 townhomes. Foster Run is 233 single family homes. In Joppa Crossing is 230 townhouses. In Magnolia Landing is 301 townhouses. In Mariners Rest, it is 12 single family. So you just add all that up. Where do you say hospitals? Where are we going to put the people? Where are the roads? I don't know how you're going to have those thousands of cars or thousands making how many trips a day out of that development up there, and coming out on 152. When 152 is a mess now. So I don't know, you can put another 1,000 cars on it. God bless you. I'm gonna run down this. I'll try to run down this quick because I don't have much time. I'll do it Edgewood and then Joppatowne real quick. Right now, Edgewood Boys and Girls Club, we're getting a new roof and a new flooring being installed. And if you notice right across from that, Copper Mine is now going full bore with their 8 sports field. That was actually on the table when I left office in 2014, and nothing happened to it for 8 years. And And when I found out why it hasn't moved forward, they said, well, they don't have the stormwater management plan. So I jumped on that. We got the stormwater management plan in effect. If you go there now, you'll see 8 or 10 bulldozers over there, and those sports fields will be done, they hope, sometime before the fall. Willoughby Beach Road, walkways and bike paths. That was on my agenda, and I brought it back up, and I've got the Harford Land Trust with us on that. If you're familiar with Willoughby Beach Road, you go down there to where the sidewalks end, and then the woods come. And then the road is very narrow there, and it's windy. Cars speed down there, and there's no place for the kids to walk on the side of the road or anywhere to get down to the park. So I met with Harford Land Trust, and they're on board with it. And Bob Casserly also likes the idea. Also, as they got money in the budget, what we can do is from the last where the sidewalks end on the left-hand side, put some kind of a bike path and walk path right down there for 1 mile till you get to the where you turn left and go down to the park, and then the same thing with that. It's got to be some kind of a crusher run or that type of a walkway, because they can't do sidewalks, they can't do anything permanent because of turtles and other animals back there. It's true. There's a turtle back there that is a species that has to be taken care of, and so that's what we're doing. The Plecker property, got some halfway news for that, because Gloria said, go check out the Plecker property for a possible dog park, skate park. Well, she said dog park. I said, well, there's plenty of room in the back of there. We can make a dog park and skate park. Went to Castley with it. He loves the idea. We got about $500,000 in the budget, and we can do that. We do. Already got anybody?
Get a name there.
Why can't we use that for a community center?
I was gonna say, can't use that for a rec center?
Yeah, can't we use that for a community center?
I'm getting to that. That's on my,
That's on the wrong side.
Well,
We don't want the money, we want the money for the community center, not the Plecker property.
that's gonna take about 12 million, well, I gotta get to that. Edgewood cleanup, we need help at Lake Serene, we're gonna try to clean that up again. We need help with the people that live up there around Lake Serene, that's a beautiful place. You need to really do some policing on your own, just like we do on Rumsey Island. We got our Rumsey Island committee and board, Lowerham's here, I'm on the board, and Ralph is our leader over there. He's clean, got a committee, goes up and down Shore Drive, picking up all the debris people throw out the windows. And the last two, on March 11th and April 1, I was able to get a hold of Bob Casson. He sent us down some large dumpsters, and you did this past first, right? You had one this one, and they fill up the dumpsters, and we lug all the stuff out there. Because Bob is very anxious to help people out who help themselves. So they're not gonna send dumpster down there with a whole bunch of people. You gotta have some volunteers, and we got with Ralph leading our volunteers over there. He does a great job. The let me get over to we did the Shore Drive cleanup. Oh, Shore Drive is also going to be repaid. I went to you're not going to believe this, but I went to a meeting at the Harford County, and I can provide this for anybody who wants it. If you tell Debbie, you may want a copy of this. It's about 100 pages, but it all has to do with Harford County Department of Housing and Community Development, all the building things, the things that are going on, how the money goes, and they sent out a notice, and they said they were having a public hearing on giving. They had it's $12 million that's in a piece of this, but they had another $1.5 million that they had cash, $1.5 million to spend somewhere, and they had an open hearing on it right on Main Street in Belair. So I said, well, I'm going to go to that hearing. I go to the hearing. There's two people there who were handling all the paperwork and doing all this stuff. I come walking into the conference room for the hearing. You know how many people were there? 3. One. $1.5 million sitting on the table, and not another soul in the county came to this meeting. And boy, I get my pencil sharp, and I got out and I said, what am I talking about? Here's what we need, an IRA, and mainly that $1.5 million is supposed to be spent, you know, on Route 40 in the southern part of the county. So I said, look, what we gotta do is we gotta finish that plan on Route 40 from the filling station up to 152. Why they left that piece out, I have no idea. It's about 0.4 of a mile. You know, they did it from there all the way down to the Harford County line, did it from 152 all the way up to 24, and they left that piece out. They threw that in, and I said, look, we got some big problems. He said, yeah, you have some paving in Joppatowne. They're gonna pave Shore Drive, they're gonna pave Town Center, and they're gonna pave Joppa Farm Road, and they're gonna fix the grass plots. If you're familiar, when you come into Joppa, on Joppa Farm Road, those grass plots are pathetic. And when last time they paved, put blacktop up, they went right over the gutters. The gutters don't exist. The blacktop's on top of the gutters. And in the turnaround, the blacktop's over the curbs. There ain't no curbs, nothing. It's terrible.
Dion, Shore Drive, what is that with all those little orange flames or what?
Yes.
Okay.
All the flags are on Shore Drive and all that, to tell them where the underground power cables are,
Okay.
all that, so they
Can I
don't.
ask you a question?
Yes.
Was Edgewood getting any of that money?
Pardon me?
Edgewood,
What
are
about?
they getting any of that money?
Yes, they are. They're getting, well, they got Route 40 work, and they are gonna get, we're gonna get the Willoughby Beach Road. That's gonna cost, upwards of $700,000. You've got, right now, I don't know how much the cost is of the Edgewood Boys and Girls Club, that new roof and new flooring in there. You've got several $1 million being spent right now on the 8 football sports fields, I should say, you know, at right across the street from the Boys and Girls Club. If you're in that area, drive down there, you'll see what I'm talking about. Real quick on Adam, where's Adam?
I'm back here, but
Oh, you're hiding.
yeah.
You're sitting on the floor resting. Adam mentioned something to me about, and I agree with him, that the two pavilions in Mariner Point Park need, we all have electric in them, so when people go there, they can plug in whatever they need to plug in, and they've never had electric, so I got with Parks and Rec and went over there with them and looked at both of the pavilions. We're gonna have electric put in both of the pavilions. Also, the statue, we looked the statue over, I don't know what happened to the statue, you know, but it's only 8 years old and it's falling apart. I mean, they built it, I was in office, I got the money and everything else, I added a hotel tax to build that statue. So I don't know what they did to it or what they didn't do to it, but it's literally rotting away after 8 years. I can't believe it. So anyway.
Somebody back there had something.
Let me just add this, they're gonna build us a new statue. And then we're gonna make sure, I'm gonna get with the builder this time, I'm gonna make sure that he treats it, and that we put a regular maintenance on it once a year. They come out and maintain it, and put whatever they need on it to keep it going. Yes, ma'am?
We were told that Oak Landing and West Shore was in the budget,
Where?
Oak Landing and West Shore, right near Home Depot,
Yeah,
for repaving. Are we not in there?
yes.
The community?
As far as I
Not
know,
40, in the community.
in the community, and alongside where those townhouses are,
Yeah,
right? Yes.
so we're in the budget for this year, next year?
Yeah, I'm gonna double check when we
Please.
start on a budget and, make sure it's there, but I'm told it's there, but you know, as Aaron know, I'm a T-cross guy and the dots and where the periods are and where the words are, and I gotta see them in my hand.
So am I, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes,
we're gonna
sir.
pave Route 40 right there.
Pardon me?
Paving Route 40.
Yes, they're paving Route 40, as soon as they finish with the bridge, they're gonna start paving 40 and take care of all that and take it down. So, be ready now you probably hear all this good stuff, now I'm gonna hear all the bitching about, you know, they can't get to their house because there's so much construction going on that, you gotta figure out how to get around or where to get to your house. Yeah, Route 40 also, they're gonna pave that. I think that's, I'll cut it short and try to see if there's any.
Yeah,
That's what's gonna happen on our side of Joppa.
Hold on, we got another, yes, sir.
That's just,
Hang
talk
on.
to him.
Yes, sir.
All right, Dan John, President, Joppatowne Rec Council.
Yes, sir. You
And,
called me and I owe you a call.
yeah, but, you know, the new guy, the new statue at Mariner's nice, and, you know, some electric in the pavilions is nice. You know, I've been fighting, and multiple presidents before me for years and years to get a rec center. Okay,
Yes.
and, you know, we're putting in all these houses, bringing all these people in, and we fight with the school system day in and day out, and the school system always gives us a hard way to go to get basketball courts, anywhere to play badminton, anywhere to play volleyball, okay? They won't let us, they fight us to use the turf field at the high school. You know, if we had a community center, okay, and again, I've been with Paul Magnus on this from Parks and Rec. We were looking at land over here on Route 7, and it was my understanding that that was shot down. Now they're supposedly looking at other pieces of land. But, you know, we're gonna build this community, but we've got nothing for these kids. What are we gonna do with these kids?
That's, I didn't have all the updated information I wanted on the community center, so that's why I didn't, even though I had it on my list. I've met with.
For one for a very, very long time.
Yes, I've met with Bob Cassidy a couple times on this community center. He's got some different ideas. We're trading back ideas right back and forth. The first idea was I wanted to see him build one right alongside of the high school on that field that's right there. There's about 4 acres of land there, and that would be totally big enough to build the same type of community center that you saw that's up on 152, where near the school up there. If you see that big building there, that'll cost about $12 million to do it. So I'm looking forward to this budget to find, to make sure that, hopefully, Bob has put something in the budget to get this kicked off, started. He's had some other ideas and we've been throwing it back and forth. He's about expanding the library and put some on the back of the library. That's been discussed. He's talking about, you know why that old post office is sitting there vacant. You know,
But that's not gonna supply a gymnasium or anything else like all these other rec councils have. You know, all these other rec councils in Harford County and up in Churchville, they've got 2 rec centers, okay?
Exactly.
And I was the president of Edgewood when theirs was built, okay? And it made an absolute world of difference over there when all of a sudden you have a gymnasium, you have classrooms, you can get things going on in the community and supply even senior activities to the people in the community. In Joppatowne, we can supply next to nothing, and we beat our heads, this is my Vice President Stephanie, we beat our heads against the wall constantly, and it's just like, there's a brick wall, there's a red flag, there's always an excuse.
You're right. Bob Cassidy is the first breath of fresh air I've seen. You couldn't get crap through Craig and Harkins, you know, on this issue. They were all interested in Havre Grace and other parts of the county. You couldn't get them to pay any attention to the southern part. But Bob is looking at that. He's very interested in the southern part of the county. He has said it at a number of meetings I've been at, and he's been the speaker. He's mentioned about how the southern part of the county has been ignored over the years, and he wants to see that we get back on track and get things put back
It'd be
together.
really
So-
nice, Dion, if you could make some kind of deal with Dante Hickman to take the pool property. Right.
That, I mean, that would be.
Let me tell you something. The
Wonderful.
If you got $1.6 million, he'll give it to you in a heartbeat. That's why he's sitting there on it, thinking the county's gonna buy it from him. The property appraised, 8 years ago for $900,000.
And we know what David Craig could have got it for, but it was for, so we know this is.
Yeah,
this
we
is not-
had it, we had $300,000.
What's today's appraisal?
I would say it's less, because it's such a
Well, then
mess.
that's the praise,
You
Bill,
know?
the 1.2 million you had
Well,
sitting up
that-
there, you could have bought it.
What one?
Where you just said there, you went in the room by yourself, you had 1.2 million,
You
nobody
can't-
was there,
you can't-
but you could
You
have that
can't, you wanna
reappraised.
listen, you wanna listen? You can't buy a piece of property in the county unless for more than it's appraised.
Yes, sir, I know
Okay.
that for years and years,
Not
because
for
I
years
own
and years, I
property.
passed that bill. Not for years and years. I passed that bill. The county could pay anything they wanted for a piece of property in the county, whatever they wanted. The only thing they have, when they sold it, the only thing they have to sell it for, they have to sell it for what it appraised, no lower.
I caught it.
Okay.
You mean like 2.9 million?
One more, and then we gotta move
Yeah.
on.
Dion, I'll get with you later, I got some
Yeah, I'll
other
have to get
things
together,
that
yeah.
you and I need to talk about.
What's your name again, sir?
I'm Dion up here.
Yeah, because if.
Anybody want a card?
Yes, sir. Because if someone were to split the cost with the government for his rec center, would that get it done?
I don't know, that's another idea. Not
Or what
sure.
avenue? What avenue have you? The reason I'm asking is, I'm currently, I took the first half of the grant writing class. The federal government, under the Mental Health Administration, they released all this money, they released over 500 million. And what he's talking about, you gotta get these kids and stuff out here for health and everything. So anything related to health, my classmate got a grant, he got 50,000, cause he wanted to take care of the food insecurity in the, city. And so he got it under that mental health grant, because he broke down the statistics. Well, kids with ADD and stuff, they need fresh foods, they shouldn't have foods with dye and stuff in it. So why can't we get the grant writer or whoever for the county to get up under that $500 million grant that the federal government is giving out? He's trying to get these kids and keep your residents of Harford County healthy and safe. Why we bumping heads with when there's money out there? What's the grant writing doing? Does that come under Mr. Grimm's thing? Because I hear the man, the frustration in his voice, and he's right.
I know he's right.
We've been
Listen,
frustrated about this, is not.
I lived in Joppatowne for 57 years. I've been fighting it the whole time. I was there before they built the school.
I was gonna say, we've been talking about a rec center for how long?
30 years.
Yeah, you missed a couple decades.
Let me tag in and just help.
Yeah,
Councilman
this-
Guthrie
this is-
had, I can see firsthand, he's met with the county administration on multiple occasions. So he's trying to do everything he possibly can to get the community center for Joppa. I can attest to that, I've seen it. So if there is a possibility, if there is a will, there's a way, I'm certain that, Councilman Guthrie can get it done.
Yeah.
All right, so he's advocating for it, I've seen it firsthand, I support him, and District B on getting it done. So, he's actually trying. So I know we're frustrated because it's been a number of years, but I can promise you, he's doing everything he can to try to make it happen.
We all know, we had the pool property. We had it in our hand.
The best thing that we can do as a community is write the emails politely and respectfully to Mr. Cassidy to say, we wanna support Dion, we want this, we need this. I know you get frustrated, you've been doing it for years, but you had different people in control, you had different people making decisions. The guy making decisions today is trying to do something different. He's been in office for 3 months, and I've seen a huge difference already in 3 months. Not to the tune of 15 million or whatever, but I've seen a huge difference in 3 months in the way my calls get returned and the way people follow up. People meet me on the road, go over a project, tell me what's happening, what's going on. So let's give these newly elected folks a chance to try to right the wrongs. We can't hold them accountable for wrongs that were done 8 years ago to us. It's just not fair to them, but I understand our frustration.
So they do respond.
And let me add this, so I can give Bob Cassidy another goodie. About a month, and then I'll finish, and then you can take it. About a month, it was about a month before the election, I called Bob up, because I knew Bob real well. Him and I served on the council together before he got tapped on the shoulder, got sent to Iraq, because he's an attorney, and they sent him over there as a, what do you call it? JAG. He went over there as a JAG and spent 3 years in Iraq. And so we know each other real well. So I still had his phone number, and it was still a cell number, and I called him up about a month or so before the election, I said, hey, Bob, listen, I'd like to meet with you. I said, when do you wanna meet? That quick. And I said, well, let's meet at the diner up here in Blair, and I said, I wanted to talk about southern part of the county. Yes, he said, I want to talk to you about that. And we spent 2 hours at the diner meeting, and let me tell you something. That 2 hours at that diner, I was 12 years on this council with Craig and Harkins, and I can tell you right now, I never spent 2 hours with Craig or Harkins in a meeting, all 12 years added together. And here's Bob jumped right in and gave me 2 hours, and we've had several meetings since. And I can call him right, I can call him now. But anytime, he always calls me back, and it's rare I have to leave a message because he'll answer the phone. So we got something different, and we want to.
I understand that there's Parks and Rec and the other parts of the government are all separate entities, and all at some point in time have to come together. You and I have worked on other projects, Dion, and we've gotten things done before.
Yeah, got the lighting for the park. Remember, we got the lighting.
I mean, Paul Magnus, I've worked with him many times in the past. He's a good man over there at P&R. We just need to get all the heads together finally. And again, you and I will have a conversation later about this. We can sit down and go for a cup of coffee or something. I gotta meet with your sister in the morning. That's a different story.
That's another story. She's been a little sick lately.
We're gonna move on.
And you know where I live, so I gotta.
This is Councilman Aaron Henry.
I appreciate you all sticking around. We're about half empty at this point. Just a couple quick updates for the council in District B. Glory had emailed me about the Bagley Ventures subdivision, right? In that development, they have failing septics. They took the petition to the county administration. They had over 50% of the community. The county administration accepts it, and then what they're gonna do now is they're gonna take an assessment of how much it's gonna cost per house, right? And then bring that back to them, and then they'll vote. Now, the individual costs from the septic line to the house will most likely be covered under the grant, but the county will then pass the cost on bringing the septic lines into the neighborhood on the actual development. So they'll get assessed for that. Now, that assessment will take place over 30 years. They've seen in the past where it's $1,000 a year, taken over 30 years. So if
And
that's
their own plumber too.
I don't know about that, but I spoke with Mr. Ivins today, to discuss it,
So is it 100% required?
is 100% required. And that bill will be heard tomorrow night for public hearing if you're interested in coming and speaking.
It's not me.
I know, but whoever you were speaking on behalf of. So, a couple issues on the council that we're dealing with. Everybody's heard about District F issue. Tomorrow, the Maryland State Supreme Court will hear Jacob Bennett's case and make a determination. We're hopeful for a quick turnaround on that. So whether the judge or the Supreme Court upholds the original judge's hearing, which he said that he was ineligible to hold a public office because he didn't resign as a teacher, or he overturns that and allows him to come back. So the two options that will take place would be, because the judge ruling in the original case said he was ineligible to hold public office, it could go to a special election. So the Board of Elections is trying to determine how that would take place. Or it could happen to where the Democratic Central Committee gives 3 names and then the council picks from those names. But the difference in this case, because the judge ruled that he was ineligible, that means he never held office. He's not like he vacated his seat. So.
And he had somebody run against him in the primary, so that person doesn't exist.
Do you have
So,
a time limit on this?
No more.
Yeah, it's gonna be heard tomorrow. Hopefully we'll get a quick turnaround on that. One legislation piece that Dion and I and Councilman Bull Sottles and Councilman Riley working on is the chicken little legislation. So right now the code has it to where you can have chickens on 2 acres. We're kind of redefining the homestead chickens and bringing it down to 1 acre. And this was, I'm not a chicken guy, I had to do research myself, but we got a bunch of emails in asking because the price of the eggs are going up. So in this legislation, if it were to pass, you can have it on 1 acre lot. pot, you have to have
About ducks.
a coop, no ducks, and no roosters, because then the roosters make a lot of noise. So, right now, it's drafted for 1 acre. I don't know if anybody has any, comments. Come on out tomorrow night, because it's on public hearing tomorrow.
Of course, you don't know if it's a rooster until they're 6 months old, unless you can hold up their tail.
Other things, that will be voted on tomorrow is the 12 farms. 12 farms were put into Ag Pres in Harford County. Now, the Ag Pres, I don't know if anybody knows how it works. So, an individual property, they have property rights, they come to the county, they come to the state. There's like 5 different Ag Pres programs. They decide to put their property in Ag Pres, which means preserves it indefinitely. The county pays them, or the state pays them almost pennies on the dollar. It's about 30%, right? Now, that money comes from the transfer tax. When you buy houses or sell houses, that's where all the money comes from. Half of it goes to the Ag Pres program, half of it goes to the school districts. Other things we're doing is the appointment process. We went through the deputy directors and the director positions, appointed them. Now we're on the citizen advisory boards, like Stephanie Flash is here, thank you for being here, which she was nominated for and appointed as a planning advisory board. So tomorrow night we have, I think, 4 other boards for citizens that have applied for different positions, and will be appointed for it. So with that, I'll go quick. Does anybody have any questions about District B? Yeah. And I know District B runs from 95 all the way up to Baldwin, over to Forest Hill, Falston, of course, Bel Air, down to Abingdon. But I grew up in Edgewood. Edgewood is near and dear to my heart. Graduated in 95. So anything I can help Dion with, I'm here to help.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, then moving along, we're trying to finish up.
No, your time is up.
Next month.
Make it quick, because
I want to make this quick because I want to talk about the hotel tax for a minute, because I did some research on the hotel tax, and in District A there are 9 hotels. We raise $685,000 a year with the hotel tax just in District A. Most of it all in Edgewood. And in the last 8 years, that amounts to $5.5 million. That's how much money we raise through our hotels. And you want to estimate how much money of that $5.5 million is spent in District A?
200,000.
50,000.
Well, how does that happen?
Brought it up because Cassidy also, him and I sat down and talked about this. I told him it's unfair. I said, we're raising $685,000 with. He says he's brought it all back. He's taken all the money away from everybody. He's got it in pot, and he's going to redirect the money. He's going to take a look at it. We're going to sit down and talk about it.
Thank you for that.
So will we hear about that the next meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so, to finish up, we usually have comments from us on the council, and Adam, you're in the back. Do you have anything you want to?
Yes, very quickly. Joppatowne High School's musical is coming up at the end of the month, the 28th, 29th, and 30th. Friday and Saturday are 7 p.m. and 2 p.m. on Sunday. It's The Lightning Thief, which is the Percy Jackson musical. I'm trying to get town trivia back up. It's a trivia game that I run. We're gonna have a game on May 7th. I'm not entirely sure where that's gonna be, but it's bringing up concerns that I haven't been able to find a single place in Joppatowne and Edgewood to hold 50 to 60 people that can get together. Either they're not willing or they're not able to, as far as space goes. I think that really sucks for our community, that we can't have a spot where we can gather and have fun, do that kind of thing beyond the community center. So that's something that I want a place where people normally would congregate, like they're there on a Sunday night at 6 p.m. So if you got a bunch of seniors there at 6 p.m. that aren't playing bingo, I'll listen to it. I also talked about Redner's to the Office of Economic Development, and Town Grill's looking to maybe bump out into that nail salon. The Office of Economic Development actually came to Joppatowne. That's the first time I remember that happening, so hopefully we'll get something with that working. Joppa Development Heritage Corporation is supposed to have a meeting this month, but their president hasn't said it yet. He's an idiot. So at some point we'll set a meeting for that. Joppatowne Grow Community Garden is going to have a work day this Saturday. If you're interested, it's behind Joppatowne Christian Church building. And it's free for anybody to work at. There's also a food pantry there, so if you'd like to be a part of that, you don't have to have any gardening experience or be a member of Joppatowne Christian Church or anything. Just go up there and help out. That's this Saturday morning. And if anybody wants to help me live stream, should something happen where I'm in a car accident and die, we won't have it. Or if the county wants to stream this, they're welcome to do that too. So, okay, that's all.
And thank you for live streaming, really thank you.
Yeah, don't thank me yet, you have to go home and see it.
Joseph, what do you have?
Great first meeting. I want to encourage my Edgewood folk to reach out to other folk, other community members, and to invite them to attend. I think that what we want to do is to make sure that all segments of the community, our community, is represented at this meeting, so that we can put our concerns on the table. Jerry Dion saying gave $1.5 million away for Joppatowne. You asked the question, where's our money? So you bring people here, you bring them to the table, ask the question.
We get the answer.
Thank you.
You already
Yeah,
did
well,
yours.
is Mrs. Tripp still here?
No.
No, you all don't know.
I just wanted to ask something. I haven't been here in a while, probably since before COVID. I'm an Edgewood resident. I wanted to know about the, we had talked about, getting a grocery store in the area since Mars left, or how many years is that? So I noticed I was up in that shopping center, right next to, that there is some type of grocery outlet. Have we been involved in that? I'm not really sure. They haven't opened up yet exactly, what's the story on that? And the other thing is that, Mr. Guthrie, I have to commend him. I have an online business, and I applied for the EAGLE SBA loan, and I didn't receive any, they approved me. They were gonna put the money in my account in, 2 or 3 weeks, which I knew the government was gonna that quickly. But it came 2 or 3 months, and called Mr. Guthrie's office, and 1 week, the money was in my account. So, good job.
Just update with Tripp's situation up at Old Mountain Road Central with the quarries. It's still going on, but they have alleviated a little bit of making the road, the trucks come out on the north side of the quarry, which takes away from some of the residents, but they're still, God bless them, they're still hauling a lot of truckloads coming in, hauling old broken concrete and stuff and crushing it and hauling it back out again. So those folks are living with truck traffic from 6 to 7 in the morning until sometimes midnight. I just want to mention.
It's at Alan Myers, in fact.
Yeah, that's right.
So Alan Myers has a rock crushing, and they also have a quarry. We met with Alan Myers. I took a tour of their facility. They put a sign out on the yard when you exit it, so all traffic turns right rather than turning left down the Old Mountain Road Central. So now we're going to try to work on the bottom end where the gravel lot is and try to get traffic flowing just from there outside at the Mountain Road Gully to prevent them from going up and down.
Can I ask a question? Because her question was never answered about the market. What's going on with that?
So we don't have that information, and we'll ask Lenora if she could, get some information, or have somebody come to the next meeting to answer that.
Maybe we can have, Lenore, maybe we can get someone from economic development at our next meeting so that we can talk about those kind of stuff.
Yeah, because it's gonna be next to the Harbor Freight where the, that price rate was.
Right.
And it's kind of important because
Well, yeah.
I've been talking to the Giant people over on, Emerton. There's possibility that Giant might be getting ready to close.
Oh, whoa. Really?
I was talking to a manager and I talked to somebody in Landover about what we can do, cause they recently changed the hours and stuff, so, yeah.
I see him. Ben, hang on, Ben, yeah, and then you. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi,
Longtime Miller with the 755 Alliance, and this is really for Lenore to take back to the county. I heard Dion talk about having support with the county for dumpsters for cleanup. We submitted a request for dumpster support for April the 29th in multi-communities, as we've done in the past, but we haven't heard anything because of, I guess, restructuring. So if you could follow up and see if we've been given approval, I got it round up my, April 29th. Well, the last time I had it at 3 communities simultaneous, Brookside Drive around that lake.
We'll make a note of that, we'll find out.
Harford Square, and then over at Cedar Drive.
Okay, and you got volunteers?
We bring the volunteers, and
Okay.
we only ask for the
We'll get
dumpster
'em.
support. So
We'll get 'em.
I haven't gotten permission that
We'll
it's
get
a
you
go.
information. I'll get it.
Right, thank you.
May I have your first?
I just wanna say, the Joppatowne Women's Club is having a bingo on April the 14th at the Fire Hall. It's on Facebook. If you want to have dinner there and bingo, you need to buy your tickets before, Monday, I think the 10th. Otherwise, you can just show up at the door. The last bingo we had, we were very successful. We are giving the Gunpowder River Keeper $250 just for general activities that they have, and we're giving them a $1,000 scholarship for an intern who is going to college and majoring in environmental studies. So if you know someone who's that, and then we're also giving Harford Community College $1,000. And this is just a few little old ladies in Joppatowne, what we did in 1 year.
Friends of Harford is having their annual meeting at Anita C. Light Estuary on Earth Day, April 22nd from 1 to 3, and we'll even give you some food. I make great brownies.
I have that stuff in it.
Hey, I was thinking.
Hey, it's legal now. If you're smoking on anything like these, get rid of them. This one was manufactured in 1994. I found this in a house 2 weeks ago. This one was manufactured in 1988. Found it in a house about a month ago. Just to let you know. I've got information up here if you want.
Anyway, to me, first of all, I wanna thank everybody for coming out, and it's wonderful to see everybody together. And if you would like, please write down my email address, and I'll tell you why. It's P as in Paul, Mullis, MULLIS, the numeral 1, at Verizon.net. And the reason is, if there's a subject you want covered, if there's a speaker you'd like to try and come out to the meetings, please email me. Tell me the issues that you'd like to have covered, so I can relate back to Lenore and the county and get people out here to the meeting. Yes, it's P as in Paul, Mullis, MULLIS, the numeral 1, and Verizon.net.
The new rule?
The numeral one.
Just number one. I'm sorry.
Number one.
I'm old school, I'm sorry. Number one. I mean, let me know if there's a specific, department you'd like to come out and hear from. We'll try next month to get economic development. If you have an issue that's coming up, let me know, and I can relay it to Dion and Aaron and Lenore. So thank you all again, and happy holidays this week to everybody.
What was the next meeting?
The first Monday of every month.
Oh, it's the first Monday.
Or first Monday of every
You
month.
get an email.
And you'll get an email, and as long as you're on, everybody's signed up, right? Okay.
We have 4 more board members to go.
Kind of by accident, somebody had posted it.
You didn't get an agenda?
And no, I didn't even know about this and all the different groups and stuff, and I talked to you in the Edgewood area. I didn't even know about this.
Oh, okay.
And I only found out because of social media.
Well, now that you're on this list, you will get all the emails, and you get an agenda every month before the meeting to let you know what the meeting is, and what's on the agenda.
Okay.
So Gloria communicates to everybody, she's a nice communicator. You're up.
This is definitely great. We need this. It's the type of resources we need definitely for us to come together collectively, not just for the judiciary, or the legislative, what is that, just for us as a community as a whole, and this right here is definitely taking initiative, so we can actually be able to have an opportunity and chances to actually speak to those that can actually do the work, and, Mr. Guthrie, definitely. But, and Mr. Mr. Penn, I'm together with both of you guys. I definitely got a lot in my mind that I'd like to bring to the table as far as doing better in the community, especially in my community, in Edgewood. You know, I would say I'm the voice or reasoning, understanding, you know, because it took me a while to get where I'm at now, to be who I am today. So, this is definitely a great opportunity for all of us to go, you know, so we can make Harford County a better place. And not even just a better place, just stay a better place, because we are whole here in Harford County. And I've been here all my life, I'm 40 now, it's turned big 40 last month, so. Yeah, okay. So,
Well,
I
like I
definitely
said,
appreciate it.
we're glad you're on the board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
I was 41.
Actually, mirror what Terry said, looking forward to working with everybody, and I know we're standing between everybody and the door, so I'll keep it short, but, yeah, I'm really excited and, excited to work with everybody in the room, and also some of the council.
All right, so this meeting was absolutely wonderful. One positive thing that I'll take from it is a saying that we had growing up: don't talk about it, be about it. So I look to help out the community more in any way I can do that.
Miriam?
First of all, Shauna Johnson was here, and she gave me her information, she had to go. So anybody that wants to sign up to sponsor the Edgewood Joppatowne Independence Day Parade, the papers are up here, I have her cards. I'm sure she needs volunteers, so anybody that wants to take a card and email her, find out what you can do to help, would be greatly appreciated.
What's the date of the parade this year? It's in Joppatowne this year, right?
Yeah, I think it's in Joppatowne last year. I didn't get any information from her, so I don't think they.
Yeah, I was like, I think it was. All right, then we'll have information, I'll talk to her, get all the information for next meeting.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to say was, maybe we could look into starting earlier. Since we have we're gonna have a large crowd every time, so maybe we could look into starting earlier. I think that,
the
6:30 meeting.
Oh, I thought we were talking about that, I thought we were talking about the parade.
No, the meeting, and, I'd also think that we should get our school board representative here, giving us an update every meeting. If the Edgewood rec and Joppatowne rec wanna come and give us updates on what's going on with the rec every meeting, that would be great. And our state, delegates and state senators, we need to work on this year, getting them here, because they tend to miss a lot.
Okay, like I said, they're just finishing up, they're just finishing up session, and everybody, a lot of them are all brand new and they're all getting their feet wet, and so.
They really talk to us
Yeah.
when they're done, yeah.
Well, they can, because you're right, sometimes we see them once every 4 years, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so before we close, let's just ask this question, do you want to start the meeting at 6:30 instead of 7?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, so we'll change it to 6:30 next month and see how that goes. I can't remember. That just gives me